implemented under her, the way the government ran under her, remote control is one phrase that comes to mind, but that's another discussion. But they were blatantly discriminatory policies that not only carried on under her, the UPA regime I'm talking about, but also were formulated under her direct control and command and nearly implemented. The most shocking was the communal violence bill that nearly became a reality, where, in the event of a communal riot, only the majority, i.e., Hindus, would be held culpable. I mean, this is not just bigotry, this is discrimination. So, I look at all the other things, the way you were running a parallel government, the way Manmohan Singh was ignored maximum number of times, the way the files used to travel away from PMO India, as that was even Sanjay has corroborated that was written in by one of the insiders of PMO India, the accidental Prime Minister Sanjay Baru. So the fact of the matter is, I don't care about the personal life of a person, and I'm willing to, of course, agree that yes, her heart beats for India. It no longer beats only or exclusively for Italy, let's put it that way. That's not my concern. My concern is, are you working for the betterment of every citizen of this country, including the Hindus? And the evidence under her regime was that patently that was not true.
Sanjay Jha?
Padmaja, first and foremost, let me tell you that I remember when I met Mrs. Gandhi way back in 2004, before that whole election happened, India Shining. That's the time when I informally started working with the Congress party. I remember telling her then that I thought she was the most extraordinary woman in not just Indian politics, but worldwide. I mean, just think about it, Padmaja. Let's kind of, for a moment, withdraw from the cold, hard, brutal, dispassionate lens of political confabulation. Now, look at a life of a woman who had a fairy tale romance with a handsome young person who belonged to the first family of India, if I can use that term, and then goes through tragedy. I mean, not just losing her mother-in-law in her arms, all bloodied and assassinated, but then also her husband, and at a very young age. And having two children who were extremely innocent and vulnerable themselves. And guess what? She ends up being the longest serving Congress president. Now, we can go on and debate about her political legacy and what she could have done differently, etc. But I think in terms of pure emotional catharsis that I think an individual can struggle with periodically, when you see death at such close quarters in such a savage manner, I think it's time we kind of looked at Mrs. Gandhi from a very different eye altogether. And I'm delighted personally because I did, and I'm not going to talk about it in public, but I did mention this in my private conversations with one or two people I know well, that Mrs. Gandhi needs to do her own autobiography or a biography that she authorizes. Because, I can tell you one thing, and, I will not say too much, that, when I met her, and in fact, the Gandhis, this was 2004, the impression that I read from newspapers and various other places was she was called a sphinx, very cold, very impassive. The family was called as very manipulative and extremely power hungry. And I found that was such balderdash. In fact, I end my first book by just mentioning my introduction to her. And there are certain things I will never talk about publicly at all. But I can say this for a fact, that I found the Gandhis extremely naive at times. I found them to be so simple, so rooted in ground realities that at times I felt, were they really ready for Indian politics that can be so, as you know and I know, that can be extremely dicey, loaded with nuances and subterranean conspiracies. I felt the Gandhis were not, they were a misfit in Indian politics. Okay. So when I look back at it, I'm fascinated. I'm glad she's done the book. And at some point, I guess all of us will share our experiences with what I think is the most enigmatic and extraordinary woman in global politics.
Nisha Chaudhary, how would you see Sonia Gandhi as this almost tragic figure who suffered personal loss, lost her husband, lost her mother-in-law, and then was thrust into the, the rough and tumble of politics, or a very smart politician?
Both. I think, yes, she gets sympathy because she's had a very difficult life. And we remember the time when her husband died. And I remember her sitting at one of the swearing-in ceremonies all alone. And at iftar parties at that time when Narasimha Rao was in power, again, all alone, people would be afraid to go to her. So it's not been easy. But, she has influenced 3 prime ministers of India. Rajiv Gandhi, her husband, P.V. Narasimha Rao, and Dr. Manmohan Singh. So she's been a very powerful woman in that sense. I don't think anybody else would have had that kind of a position. And she herself said no to prime ministership. It was within her grasp in 2004. The Congress Parliamentary Party had elected her as leader. The UPA Parliamentary Party had elected her as leader. And within 24 hours, she had said no. And also, I think she's an interesting figure because she gave confidence to the minorities which had left the Congress party after the Babri Masjid demolition. She gave them confidence enough to look at the Congress once again. And one has found her, sympathetic, empathetic towards women's issues. Women who've been in trouble, reaching out to women. But I would say her 2 failures would be one, that Hindu nationalism rose during her stewardship of the party in a big, big way. And second, while she was very good at if the party was under attack, to fight back for survival. But she did not really set the agenda for the party in that sense. So I think it'll be her own book in her own words would be very fascinating, because one would like to know more about, the terms of these prime ministers. One would also like to know her relationship with Indira Gandhi and why she refused to be prime minister. In her own words, everybody's had, theories, and also Natwar Singh had, who saw it all happen, had a view on it of what had happened. And
Rahul Gandhi advised her against it because he had lost his father.
Rahul Gandhi advised her that my dadi was killed.
And almost emotionally blackmailed her because he could not afford to lose her.
Yeah. But she used to often say, Padmaja, she was very pragmatic, very cautious in her decision. She'd often say, I am not Nehru's daughter. She was aware of her limitations. And that's why she possibly pursued a left of center policy. The other thing she felt very strongly about was that she was the custodian of the Gandhi Nehru legacy. I mean, she had to hang on to this, This was very important to pursue. Anyway, as I say, her book has been coming. And it's long awaited. It was, I believe, written, then withheld, and now finally they have announced that it's going to be released on November 10th. So,
and also because her personal life, there have been biographies that I have read. There have been her political journey has been discussed in some books as well, including yours. But her personal life has been very closely guarded. The only book I can remember which was even based on her personal life was The Red Sari, and that was banned when the UPA was in power. I think Dr. Raghunathan wants to chime in on that, but I want to ask you, since it's called belonging, do you think after all of these years in India, Sonia Gandhi has found belonging, that she feels and people of India feel, or the politics of the country feels that she finally belongs? Neeja Chaudhary.
Yeah, I think so, because she's very much at home. She's very much at home with the politicians. She was good friends with Mamata Banerjee when other politicians found Mamata very difficult. 2.5 hours she spent with Mayawati. I once asked her, I said, "Aap log baat kya karte ho 2.5 ghante ke liye?" So she told me at that time that she would go over that, guest house episode where Mayawati felt she was about to be raped and killed by Mulayam Singh's goons. So she won the confidence of people. That is true. And I remember when she first came into politics, going through meetings and asking ordinary people, rallies, about her foreign origins, and people would say, "Usko ब्याह के लाया, यहीं की है, अब तो यहीं की हो गई ना." So as somebody else was saying, I don't think, and after she gave up prime ministership, that was acceptance for her. Nothing else, led to the kind of acceptance she's had. And I think, again, as one conversation, as I'm talking, I recall I'd asked her, "What is your favorite food?" And she said, "Dal chawal." So I don't know whether that was really the case or that certainly was politically correct answer.
Well, relatable, totally relatable. If there's one thing every Indian will echo. Dr. Ranganathan, you wanted to come in.
No, I'm just saying I possibly am the odd one out because there seems to be a Sonia Gandhi appreciation club out here, the rest of the panelists. But be that as it may, as I said, there might be takers for this kind of assessment of a person. But of course, we are talking of someone whose claim to fame was entitlement, belonging to a family of dynasts. Things came easy to her because there was no other option. That was given to the country. Let's be honest about it. So I do not go by what happened in her life. Good luck to people who would enjoy that sort of thing. I'm just going again by the way the country was taken under her. It was a road to perdition. There is no other way to describe it. You look at the economy, we turn fragile five. You look at the socio-economic strata. You look at the fractures, the fault lines that developed in the country, blatant discrimination, discriminatory acts against Hindus. And obviously that led to the rise of Hindus demanding justice. So when you look at all those things and you put in, of course, added the flawed foreign policy of kowtowing to Pakistan, the Sharm el-Sheikh agreement, refusing to bomb after 26/11, despite Indian Air Force chiefs saying, let's do that. A host of things that went wrong, that must be catalogued. And I hope that, she mentions these with the alacrity and with the forthrightness that many people are claiming that she has. I
Although
doubt it.
technically that can't be put at her door because it was Dr. Manmohan Singh who was the Prime Minister. She wasn't.
Well.
Sanjay Jha, I think, wants to...
Therein lies the second volume.
Yeah.
Okay, I think everyone wants to jump in at this point. Sanjay Jha, you first, then Vijay Chaudhary.
Yeah, Padmaja, I think, I think Anand has got every right to be critical of Mrs. Gandhi and the Congress, which he always is. But, there is a moment for also demonstrating some grace. We are talking about a book launch of a woman who's gone through horrendous and harrowing times at a very personal level. Yes, you're right. Maybe three of us are part of an appreciation club, and I don't think we need to be apologetic about it. But there are a couple of points that need to be mentioned here. One of them definitely is that when she was offered the position of a prime minister, Congress clearly panicked when Rajiv Gandhi was assassinated. She refused. There are circumstances that led her to eventually becoming a Congress president. And don't forget that for a long time, she was in wilderness, complete wilderness. We're not going to discuss her political legacy, and because at some point we will debate it, and I'll be more than ready to debate that with Anand. But one point I would like to mention, and this I've seen of the Gandhis at a very personal level, their heart is in the right place. You can fault them for communication, you can fault them for probably being occasionally politically tactless or even myopic. But if you look at all the rights that came in during UPA, whether it is the right to information, right to education, right to food, right to jobs, employment, Manrega, I think Mrs. Gandhi really believed in that. And that became the cornerstone of the Congress, the defining political or economic philosophy. But the one point that I do want to make a mention is that the Gandhis, I feel, are very trusting as a family. This is what I've seen at close quarters. I always felt that Mrs. Gandhi, given the fact that she was so powerful when I met her, I found her to be so simple, so kind of ordinary in the way she spoke. She had no grudges against anybody. I remember asking her this, and I'll give you one example, Padmaja. I haven't shared it publicly anywhere. We had a long conversation, and at some point I had to record what Mrs. Gandhi and I were talking. And there were many things that she said, and I recorded that. And I said, Mrs. Gandhi, when I was leaving Ten Janpath, and I said, Mrs. Gandhi, this has been a fabulous day. And I was there for nearly a week. But on that particular day, it had been great conversation. I said, Mrs. Gandhi, I'm leaving. But do you realize that I am carrying a whole cassette or a video of your conversations, which have been very frank and absolutely fearless? Nobody's heard you with that kind of candor. And she was not aware that, if there was some guy who had mischief and, wanted to just kind of, create a story, you could have. Not that there was anything wrong in it, but there could have been some very interesting anecdotes on people. That I think that told me clearly that there was so much of simplicity in Mrs. Gandhi. I don't think she's changed thereafter. I think all these defeats in elections have probably made the Gandhis more humble than we give them credit for.
Okay, Anand Ranganathan?
No, in fact, I want to agree with Sanjay. What he talks about, a host of a slew of policies that actually helped India were formulated under her. There is no doubt about it, and I give her credit for it. And all those policies are being taken forward, have been, by Narendra Modi, because India needs to be a welfare state, and it is good that she recognized it. My only problem is that socialism cannot run on socialist policies. Socialism has to run through capitalism. You need to generate money, and that is where the flaw came in. People thought there was a bottomless pit or money would fall from heavens. Everything would be paid for, all the welfare schemes would be paid for. That unfortunately got concretized, and we, as a result, now even Modi doesn't have the gumption to privatize, to disinvest, to do all those things that are right for the country.
Okay. Nisha Chaudhary, I think you wanted to come in, and I also want to talk about this whole thing about whether she was forced into politics, or as one interpretation says, that this was actually everyone wants power and she got to be the power behind the throne. The entire conversation around the NAC, the kitchen cabinet. Nisha Chaudhary.
Yeah, one, that she was initially very reluctant, as we know. She was very reluctant that Rajiv Gandhi enter politics, as we know. And she took some years. It's only 1997 and 98 that she decided to jump in. You remember, the Congress leaders had gone to beg her after Rajiv Gandhi's death to take over the mantle of Congress presidency, and she had said no. So yes, reluctant, but then subsequently, she kept an ambivalence about whether or not she was going to come into politics, which was, I think, strategy. Otherwise, the Congress party can be very ruthless and would have sidelined the family in those years.
But is it also not because there were many stalwarts within the Congress who were not happy with Sonia Gandhi? There was Arjun Singh, there was Sharad Pawar, and eventually many of them broke away. So it wasn't just selfless sacrifice. It was also the realization that she was far too young and far too raw and unaccustomed to Indian politics to be able to take on these old-timers of the Congress.
I think Arjun Singh used her. You know how Narasimha Rao was treating Ten Janpat. Sharad Pawar, she never trusted. She was very wary of all along. But, it's very interesting what much will depend on, responding to what Anand is saying, that vigorous critiques and criticism of the policies that were followed when she was the party president, I think may come when the book comes out. We don't know what the book is going to contain. Is it a personal thing? Biography of her and how she viewed things, which makes it a very different ball game. So it will depend on all that, what the content of the book.
And so many second-person accounts have also been written. For example, her relationship with her mother-in-law, her relationship with Sanjay Gandhi, with Menka Gandhi, the entire falling out that happened. But in conclusion, let me ask you this, Rashid Kidwai. What's the one aspect you hope to hear more about? If there's one thing that has truly been under wraps in the personal aspect of Sonia Gandhi, what would you want to know?
Yes, I think her relations with Bachchan family, particularly, what happened, why she fell out with Amitabh. There's a lot of speculation. I have also written a number of things in my book, but I'll be very curious to know her account. I think Sonia Gandhi, in many ways, Padmaja is very, misunderstood person. We have various accounts by various people. Neerja ji was saying that, she was reluctant in politics. I mean, and this is what P.C. Alexander has written, a very kind of graphic account. But if you, know more, in 1982, when after Sanjay Gandhi's death, when Rajiv Gandhi was brought in politics, Sonia Gandhi is known to have opposed, Menka Gandhi's entry in politics. So someone can argue that, she had a political mind and she was, she didn't want Menka to come in. Similarly, a lot has been said of her being so-called, anti-Hindu. First of all, in our constitutional scheme of things, it is, the phase had very little bearing on a citizen's, role, what the citizen plays. But we must, remember, Padmaja, a couple of things. In 1999, when Sonia Gandhi was Congress president, the Congress Working Committee passed a resolution, and the resolution read, because I remember it verbatim, saying Hinduism is a sole guarantor of secularism in India. If Padmaja had not told you that this is a Congress resolution, it was passed under Sonia Gandhi's leadership, you would have thought that it's come from Bharatiya Janata Sangh or some other right-wing organization. Sonia Gandhi, when she went to Tirupati temple, she wrote in that she follows the religion of her husband and her in-laws, that is of Indira Gandhi. So she has made it very clear. In fact, Church of Northern India had gone on record to say that, that she is not a practicing Christian. So she has faced criticism from lot. And the revolt on her foreign religions, Bhardwaj, did not come from the BJP. It came from within. It came from Sharad Pawar. It came from Sangma. It came from Tale Kanwa. So that she has faced a lot of challenges and disquiet. I think Dr. Ranganathan is crediting her what what is the mantra that is still in practice, that is known as, the economic left and social right.
Dr. Ranganathan, what would you want to know?
Nobody, including Mr. Modi, is able to, dilute that. So I think that is her legacy. Like, she's a politician. I would say she's a very first-class graduate from University of Life. She has done a lot, and I don't think she would have many regrets. But of course, like any politician's life, we can go on. There are several versions, and she's open to criticism.
And 1999, also remember the year when that famous Tea Party took place and the Vajpayee government was brought down by two very strong and shrewd lady politicians, J. Jayalalitha and Sonia Gandhi, along with, of course, Dr. Subramaniam Swamy. Yes, Dr. Ranganathan, what would you want to know?
No, there is very little that Rashid ji has said that is wrong. May I just add that sometimes a tear in the eye can hide what truth sometimes really is. The fact is, Mrs. Sonia Gandhi was also exceedingly ruthless when it came to it. So it's not just, this persona of somebody who needs sympathy. We know what happened to Mr. Kesri. We know that I think one crowning glory of UPA's achievement was the Indo-US nuclear deal. And we know the opposition and how Manmohan Singh, put his foot down. Had he not, we wouldn't have had that crowning glory as well. Look, the fact of the matter is, as I say again, that good luck to anybody who would enjoy this. And by all means, a memoir is something to be taken with a pinch of salt, because you having that person's account, it's going to be sanitized to some extent, especially if it's a politician. But the fact is, yes, if the Congress did say that it is because of Hinduism that India is secular, Hindus have suffered under the same secularism. Only Hindu temples are under state control. There are tens of other things that Hindus suffer because of this secularism, that is because of Hinduism. That was not removed, and Rashid ji is right. Modi has continued with that. So if you have to criticize Sonia Gandhi, I would also criticize in some large measure Narendra Modi as well for continuing with that same thing.
All right, I'm out of time for now, but I suspect we are going to have many more such discussions in the lead up to that book, and especially when the book is out. For the time being, though, for sharing your thoughts and your wisdom with us, all gentlemen, and Neeja Chaudhary, thanks very much for joining me. The other big story on the show today, UP ke ladke aur UP ke ladake is all not well in the Congress Samajwadi Party alliance in Uttar Pradesh. This question is now being asked with much fervor after a video emerged from Saharanpur. Now, this video has Samajwadi Party MLA Ashu Malik and Congress MP Imran Masood having a pow-pow over pakoras. Well, technically, that's not entirely correct. What actually happened was that these two leaders were participating in a Disha meeting. Essentially, it is about coordinating the issues faced by people of the area, namely Saharanpur. In this Disha meeting, the SP and Congress leaders got into a heated argument about the issues that should be discussed. Imran Masood was very particular that, the rules of engagement should be followed. Only the speaker should decide who gets to ask the question. But the real question is, was this only about one Disha meeting, or did it actually show the Disha in which this alliance is headed? First, listen in to what actually happened in that meet.
सवाल मेरा है, वो क्यों बोल रहे हैं? अरे ये भी कोई बात है, आपका सवाल है कोई दूसरे का चित्र नहीं है, ये क्या बात हो गई? आप भी पूछिए, आप दिशा की मीटिंग है, कोई दिशा की मीटिंग नहीं है, नहीं दिशा की मीटिंग है, नहीं बर्दाश्त नहीं, ये नियम से चलेगी, नियम से चल रही है, नहीं नियम से चलेगी, नियम से चलेगी, खेत की अनुमति के बिना नहीं बाहर करिए, नहीं जनता के लिए नहीं चाय पकौड़ी खाने थोड़े आए, चाय पकौड़ी कौन खिला रहा आपको? आप नियमों में बैठे, आपसे ज्यादा जानते हैं.
Now let's understand where this tension is coming from. With elections round the corner, shadow boxing between the two parties has picked up pace in UP. Imran Masood in particular has been leading the charge on that front, pushing for the Congress to get at least 150 seats in seat sharing. Congress's Uttar Pradesh in charge, Rajendra Pal Gautam, has also demanded an equal partnership in seat sharing. The SP, though, may not be inclined to part with more than 70 to 80 seats. Now, the Congress's logic in all of this is very simple. Even during the 2017 assembly elections, when the Samajwadi Party was in power, the Congress had bagged 105 seats under the alliance out of the 114 that they contested. Then came the 2024 Lok Sabha elections, where the BJP suffered reverses, perhaps its biggest setback in Uttar Pradesh. In 2024, the Congress won 6 of the 17 seats it contested, yielding a strike rate of 35%. So, they argue, this time their claim to 150 seats is even stronger. Now, the results of elections in West Bengal and Assam have also given fresh wind to the Congress's hopes, given how they now seem to be emerging as the party of choice for Muslims. Remember, from drawing a blank in the last West Bengal elections, this time the Congress actually won 2 seats. They managed to open their account, and both of these seats were in Muslim majority areas, and this Muslim vote is a sizable one in UP as well. But when you look at actual numbers in the assembly elections, the wind goes out of the Congress's sails. The Samajwadi Party actually bettered their performance between the 2017 and 2022 assembly elections, going from 47 to 11 seats, 111 seats, and a vote share of 32%. The Congress came down from 7 MLAs to only 1 MLA in the last assembly election, and a vote share of a mere 2% and a strike rate of merely 1%. Even in the Lok Sabha election performance of both parties in UP, the SP outpaced the Congress, getting 37 Lok Sabha MPs as compared to just 6 of the Congress. So, what happens then? For now, it seems that this wrangling is more pressure tactic than anything else. But when it comes to the Samajwadi Party, there's always a willing suitor for them, remember, in the form of Asaduddin Owaisi, waiting in the wings. Let's see who blinks first in this and who will be left tallowing pakoras. Joining us now on the show, we have Sanju Verma, national spokesperson of the BJP. Dr. Anand Ranganathan continues with us. Tariq Khan of the Samajwadi Party and Kamlakar Tripathi of the Congress. First, let's start with you, Mr. Tariq Khan. अब ये पकोड़े पे क्यों झगड़ा कर रहे हैं आप? What's going on?
We should look at BJP as well. They have even stopping convoys of their ministers. आपको पता है जो इनके महोबा में रिज्जू भैया हैं, उन्होंने स्वतंत्र देव सिंह का बाकायदा जो काफिला था उसको रोक दिया था. और कितने जूते चप्पल पड़े अगर हम तारीख के साथ बताएंगे ना मैम, अभी देयर वुड बी नो आंसर. कितने जूते और लात घूसे. अभी अयोध्या में एक जगह प्रोग्राम हो रहा था, शांति भोज में गए हुए थे बीजेपी के नेता, वहां पर लड़ाई लड़ रहे थे. खैर छोड़िए, ऑल दिस थिंग्स हैपेंड इन 2024 एज वेल कि अलायंस नहीं हो पाएगा, बड़ी दिक्कत है. अब मैं एक राय आपकी भी चाहता हूं मैम कि अलायंस होना चाहिए या नहीं होना चाहिए, आपको क्या लगता है? ना करें
लगता है जो खुशी खुशी साथ में आए. अब किसी का घर बन रहा है तो मैं क्यों कहूंगी कि ना हो भाई. एक साइकिल पर एक से दो भले.
थैंक यू. आई जस्ट वांट योर एडवाइस. रंगनाथन साहब भी एडवाइस देंगे, इसलिए मैं कह रहा हूं मैम, अगर मैं कह रहा हूं इन सब लोगों को आप दिमागी वो नक्सलवादी तो मानेंगे, लेट फाइट, लड़ने दीजिए. इन लोगों को क्या दिक्कत है? इवन आप लोगों का तो क्लेम ये है कि हमको जनता पसंद ही नहीं करती, तो लेट अस फाइट. हम लोगों को लड़ने दीजिए, लीव अस.
No, जनता को बाद में आएगी. First we need to figure out whether Imran Masood and the Samajwadi Party are together, because this is not the first time he is saying this.
You agree? Both are.
Acha, now suddenly you have got, members of the Congress going and meeting Behenji. Suddenly they are saying we will not settle for less than 150 seats.
मैम इन दोनों लोगों को आप दिमागी नक्सल कंसीडर करती हैं या नहीं कंसीडर करती हैं, ये मैं पूछ रहा हूँ. इमरान मसूद और हमारे एमएलए दोनों दिमागी नक्सल हैं या नहीं? हाँ या ना?
नक्सल भाई ऐसा कह रहे हैं आप?
नहीं मैम, बीजेपी तो यही कहती है ना, ये सब लोग जो सवाल उठाते हैं, जो जनता की आवाज उठा रहे हैं, सब दिमागी नक्सल.
अच्छा देखिए, अभी आप दिमागी नक्सल में इसको आप ट्रैजेक्टरी चेंज मत कीजिए, बिकॉज अनकंफर्टेबल टाइम यू वांट टू चेंज इट, एंड यू आर बेटिंग संजू वर्मा, सो शी क्विकली जंप्स इन एंड टेक्स द बेट एंड स्टार्ट्स टॉकिंग अबाउट दिमागी नक्सल. बट बिफोर आई कम टू यू संजू वर्मा, सिंस ही हैज वेरी जेंटली आस्क्ड फॉर एडवाइस फ्रॉम डॉक्टर आनंद रंगनाथन, बताइए डॉक्टर आनंद रंगनाथन.
नहीं देखिए, तारिक भाई मेरे बहुत अजीज हैं, मेरे बड़े भाई हैं, लेकिन अगर एडवाइस ही चाहिए तो मुझसे तो एक तो गलत आदमी से एडवाइस ले रहे हैं. पर मैं ये कहूंगा कि देखिए, 2 लोग जो हैं वो पेट्रोल दे रहे हैं, स्कूटीज में दे रहे हैं यूपी वालों की, और जब यूपी वाले की पेट्रोल के पास पेट्रोल स्टेशन पे पंप स्टेशन पे स्कूटी आती है तो एक राहुल गांधी है जो पीछे ऐसे कहते हैं जीरो चेक कर लो। आपकी चिंता यह है कि ये जो होज जिसके हाथ में पकड़ा है वो अखिलेश यादव तो नहीं है। अब मैं आपसे एक सीधा सवाल पूछूंगा, इससे इसके बाद मैं 1 मिनट और लूंगा पद्मजा जी से, लेकिन आप बस ये बताइए, मुझे पता है आपको खौफ किस बात का है तारिक भाई, अपने अंदर अगर आप झांक के देखेंगे, आप मेरे को पता है आप एडवाइस मांग रहे हैं, मैं आपको बता रहा हूं। What you are worried about is, will the Congress do to you what it did to DMK? और मैं आपसे इसलिए पूछना चाहता हूं कि जो तमिलनाडु में कांग्रेस ने किया कि प्री पोल डीएमके के साथ थे, 4-5 सीटें जीती बिकॉज डीएमके ने उनको अलाउ कर दिया वो सीट जीतने के लिए, उसके बाद उनको छोड़ के वो पोस्ट पोल अलायंस बना के गवर्नमेंट में है। क्या आपको लगता है कि जो कांग्रेस ने किया तमिलनाडु में ठीक किया? हाँ या ना बता दीजिए बस।
तारिक खान,
रंगनाथन भाई पता है 77 में पहली बार गठबंधन वाली राजनीति शुरू हुई है ना, उसके बाद ना इतना गोला बना है, इतने लोग इधर गए उधर गए उधर गए फिर उधर गए। अगर ऐसे ऐसे करेंगे
गोला तो ठीक है, कांग्रेस तो नहीं गोल हो जाएगी और आपको गोल करके छोड़ देगी।
इसमें सब
अलायंस करना सेल्फ गोल तो नहीं हो जाएगा।
सीधा सवाल था तारिक भाई, तमिलनाडु में कांग्रेस
यही तो कह रहा हूं,
गलत किया, सीधा सवाल था। अब आप जवाब नहीं देना चाहते, मैं समझ रहा हूं, हाँ या ना का जवाब
मैं बिल्कुल कह रहा हूं, नहीं हाँ या ना नहीं, मैं यही कह रहा हूं ना कि लोग बहुत इधर उधर हुए, इस पे कहां तक डिस्कस करेंगे हम, कितना हुए हैं। जनसंघ ये तो हमारे साथ ही थे, 77 में जनता पार्टी में विलय किसने किया, सब थे उसमें, हम भी थे, ये भी थे, बीजेपी वाले भी थे, तब कांग्रेस उधर थी, अब घूम के ऐसे आ गए। 67 में भी यूपी में गठबंधन बना, उसके बाद कितने लोग, अटल बिहारी वाजपेयी पता नहीं कितने लोगों को सरकार ले लेके बनाए, हम लोग तो छोटे थे भाई।
नहीं देखिए, हम इसके अगर क्रक्स तक जाएंगे, अगर इसकी बोटी बोटी अलग करेंगे, तो जो इमरान भाई ने जो कहा है वो खौफनाक इसलिए है समाजवादी पार्टी के लिए क्योंकि उनको ये दिख रहा है, राइटिंग इज ऑन द वॉल। एक आप ऑनेस्टली पद्मजा, वन मोर विंडो शुड हैव बीन देयर ऑफ डीएमके पैनलिस्ट, he would have said the entire thing clear as day because it is clear to me already. कांग्रेस इज गोइंग टू डिच समाजवादी पार्टी। समाजवादी पार्टी की 6-7 सीटें ऐसी होंगी जहां पे वो जीत सकती हैं, लेकिन वो कांग्रेस को देंगी कि चलो भाई तुम जीत जाओ। अब कांग्रेस जब जीत जाएगी वो समाजवादी पार्टी,
आप चाहते हैं समाजवादी पार्टी जीते, आप चाहते हैं समाजवादी पार्टी जीते, आप चाहते हैं समाजवादी पार्टी जीते, आप ये चाहते हैं?
मैं क्यों चाहूंगा कोई जीते कोई हारे?
अभी मुझसे तो हाया ना, अभी तो मुझसे हाया ना मांग रहे थे, क्या है भाई रंगनाथन साहब, दोस्त भी कहते हो।
Okay, let me bring in Sanju Verma here. Look, Tariq Khan will figure out whatever his problem is with Kamlakar Tripathi, but BJP should not be happy in this. You've got enough problems of your own. Every day Akhilesh Yadav keeps saying कि यहाँ पे 2 चक्के हैं, एक दिल्ली का है, एक लखनऊ का है, दोनों आपस में टकराते रहते हैं। लखनऊ में भी 2 चक्के आपस में टकराते रहते हैं। If you ever talk to Brijbhushan Sharan Singh, he will not have one kind word to say about Yogi Adityanath. Sanju Verma.
You know, Padmaja ji, पहले तो you say Sanju Verma is quick to take the bait. अरे भाई डिबेट करने आए हैं, मुंह पर ताला लगाकर बैठने के लिए थोड़ी आए हैं। If somebody is throwing the gauntlet, I am all for the challenge. Now, if that is called taking up the bait, I gladly accept that allegation. But now let me come straight to the issue. Very quickly, 2022 उत्तर प्रदेश चुनाव, समाजवादी पार्टी actually raised its vote share by almost 11%. Despite that, they were limited to 111 seats. What am I trying to say? I always say that BJP's biggest strength is the ability to convert vote share into winnable seats. And while the difference in vote share between BJP and any leading opposition party in a given state may not be very large, the opposition fails to convert vote share into winnable seats. That's point number one. Point number two. Today, Imran Masood of the Congress versus Ashu Malik of the Samajwadi Party. Couple of years back, it was, Ajay Rai versus Kamal Nath. Then it was Kamal Nath versus Ram Gopal Yadav. और यहाँ तक कि पिछले साल अखिलेश यादव ने कांग्रेस पार्टी को चिरकुट बोल दिया था, कहा था कि इनमें तो चुनाव जीतने की क्षमता ही नहीं है. So have the Samajwadi Party and the Congress Party been at loggerheads with each other? Yes. The third point I want to make is this. I will only quote 2 examples. One is November 2024 by-elections to 9 seats in Uttar Pradesh. The Congress wanted only 3 from the Samajwadi Party. It refused. Then the Congress withdrew and Samajwadi Party fought all the 9 by-elections on its own strength. The BJP won 7 out of those 9 with a strike rate of 78%. The Samajwadi Party won 2 out of 9 with a strike rate of only 22%. So my third point is that the Samajwadi Party and the Congress continue to be at loggerheads, and when push comes to shove, they have not been able to converge to take on the BJP. And my final point is this: सबसे अहम चुनाव 2025 में was the Milkipur by-assembly election from Uttar Pradesh, where Avdesh Prasad, the man who supposedly defeated BJP from its bastion in Ayodhya/Faizabad, Avdesh Prasad's son Ajit Prasad was defeated in Milkipur by BJP's Chandrabhanu Paswan. And why I say Milkipur is a mirror image of Samajwadi Party not getting its plot together is simply because Milkipur में 16-17% ब्राह्मण है. एक मिनट, मिल्कीपुर में 16-17% दलित है, मिल्कीपुर में 35-40% OBC है. So Milkipur is a cosmopolitan constituency where the Samajwadi Party could not win.
Okay.
And the BJP won by a margin of 62,000 votes. What does that tell you? It tells you that 2027 में वही होगा जो 2022 में हुआ और 2017 में हुआ. अखिलेश यादव की साइकिल पंक्चर हो चुकी है.
पर ये तो बता दीजिए, समाजवादी पार्टी वर्सेस कांग्रेस के पकौड़े झगड़े में आपकी सिंपैथी किसके साथ है?
मेरी सिंपैथी?
हाँ,
मेरी सिंपैथी किसी के साथ नहीं है. दोनों आपस में लड़कर they are going to reduce each other to oblivion.
ओके, कमलाकर त्रिपाठी, संजू वर्मा इज प्रेडिक्टिंग ओब्लिवियन फॉर यू. अभी तो आपका कम हुआ है, जितना आप झगड़ा और करेंगे खुद ही अपने अलायंस के जड़ में मट्ठा डाल रहे हैं आप.
Padmaja ji, first thing I would like to tell you, don't try to make a mountain out of a molehill. It was a nothing kind of an incident. That was a Disha meeting in which Imran Masood was presiding and Ashu Malik was raising something, and he said that after that let it complete the other person, the other member, and we will do it, and both of them have explained it. और दूसरी चीज आपको बताऊं,
पर ये मोलहिल तो हमने अखिलेश में भी देखा था. When Kamalnath had called Akhilesh ji himself Akhilesh Vakhilesh.
एक मिनट.
So you are digging up these molehills. What can I do?
Padmaja ji, don't interrupt me.
Yes, go on.
Just a minute. I am coming to the point. Another thing. बीजेपी जो आज कर रही है वो ये है कि आपन पूर्वांचल की एक कहावत है, आपन ढेंढर न निहारे आन का फुल्ली ताके. आई टेल यू व्हाट अ डिस्प्यूट इज, व्हाट अ लॉगर हेड इज. जब संत कबीर नगर के मेंबर ऑफ पार्लियामेंट शरद त्रिपाठी इसी कोऑर्डिनेशन मीटिंग में जूता निकाल करके बीजेपी के ही वहां के एमएलए राकेश सिंह बघेल को मारते हैं, दैट इज गोइंग इन लॉगर हेड. दूसरा आपको इंसिडेंट बता दूं, ये जो आपके पीलीभीत के पूर्व मंत्री वर्तमान विधायक के पिता राम शरण वर्मा, उन्होंने क्लियरली कहा ओपनली मीडिया में कि योगी से ज्यादा भ्रष्ट सरकार कोई नहीं है, इनसे बेहतर तो मायावती जी थी. और जो अभी जो गोपाल नंदन जी जो बोल रहे थे, मैं उस पे भी आपको बता देना चाहता हूं, ये जो टैक्टिस जो लोगों को डिच करने की है वो नरेंद्र मोदी जी से बेहतर कौन कर सकता है?
ओके, वेरी गुड. संजू वर्मा रिस्पोंडेंट डॉक्टर रंगनाथ.
पहले उनके पहले
आई हर्ड यू, मैंने आपको सुना भाई साहब. यू नो पद्मजा जी,
पारस को ले लिया, उसके बाद पशुपति पारस को डिच किया.
ओके, फाइट्स हैपन एवरीवेयर. संजू वर्मा रिस्पॉन्ड स्पेसिफिकली टू दैट.
रहा है
संजू वर्मा, फाइट्स हैपन एवरीवेयर.
कांग्रेस प्रवक्ता के लिए ये कहना चाहूंगी, हमको मालूम है जन्नत की हकीकत क्या है, हमको मालूम है जन्नत की हकीकत क्या है, लेकिन दिल को खुश करने के लिए गाली भी एक ख्याल अच्छा है.
कांग्रेस पर्दा हटा दीजिए.
कांग्रेस गॉट 2 seats from उत्तर प्रदेश with a 2.3% वोट शेयर. प्रियंका वड्रा, लड़की हूँ लड़ सकती हूँ, लड़की हूँ लड़ सकती हूँ ना. आपको महिलाओं का वोट,
आप 400 पा रहे थे, 240 पे आ गए.
उत्तर प्रदेश में धज्जियां उड़ चुकी हैं कांग्रेस की. आपको 2 सीटें मिली, 2 सीटें मिली थी आपको उत्तर प्रदेश विधानसभा चुनाव में.
तो आप भी एक समय में पूरे पार्लियामेंट में 2 सीट पे थे, उससे क्या लेना देना है? उसके बाद हमने 6 सीट्स मेंबर ऑफ पार्लियामेंट की
10 सीटें तो जीतिए. आप तो 2 सीटों पर सिमट कर रहे थे।
आज की डेट में आपको
10 सीटें तो जीती पहले।
किसान आपके खिलाफ है, महिलाएं आपके खिलाफ है,
डबल डिजिट में सीटें जीतिए।
बीजेपी से बेटी बचाओ।
Okay, Dr. Ranganathan, making a mountain out of a molehill, says Kamlakar Tripathi.
नहीं देखिए, कमलाकर जी की मैं बहुत इज्जत करता हूँ, त्रिपाठी जी हैं, लेकिन ये चौथा पार्ट लगता है भूल गए। मेरा नाम गोपाल नंदन नहीं है, माफ कीजिएगा, रंगनाथन है। हालांकि गोपाल नंदन बहुत ही अच्छा नाम है, मुझे बहुत अच्छा लगा। लेकिन देखिए, ये वॉटअबाउटरी को ऐसे एक्सट्रीम तक ले गए कमलाकर जी कि जो और लोग लड़े हैं हिस्ट्री में, उनकी पूरा चिट्ठा पत्ता खोल दिया। अब ये टीपू सुल्तान को भी लाएंगे, बाबर को भी लाएंगे, ये देखो उससे लड़ा था, ये उससे लड़ा था। बात आपकी लड़ाई की हो रही है। और मैं आपको ये बता दूं कि कांग्रेस ने जो
पंडित नेहरू तक जा रहे हैं,
मैंने आपको इंटरप्ट नहीं किया, मैंने आपको
आपके 2 साल पहले का भी बताना बड़ा मुश्किल है।
सुन लीजिए कमलाकर जी,
जब चीजें खुलती हैं तो सबकी खुलेंगी।
अरे त्रिपाठी जी, गोपाल जी की बात तो सुन लीजिए 2 सेकंड के लिए।
हाँ, सुन लीजिए, गोपाल नंदन बहुत ही प्यारा नाम है, इट्स सो क्यूट। मैं अपने आप को आनंद गोपाल नंदन कहने वाला हूं। देखिए, इन्होंने महाविकास आघाड़ी कैसे बनाई, कुत्ते बिल्ली की तरह ये उन्हीं पार्टी से लड़ रहे थे। एनसीपी को वोट मत दो, शिवसेना को वोट मत दो, और इलेक्शन के बाद क्या किया, पोस्ट पोल अलायंस। डीएमके के साथ तमिलनाडु में क्या किया, साथ अलायंस था, उसके बाद लड़ रहे थे बाकी और पार्टियों से, और अब कांग्रेस, अब सरकार बना दी है। तो जो जो कांग्रेस के साथ है वो एक आंख खोल के सो रहा है। पद्मजा, आपने
पशुपति पारस और उसके साथ क्या किया था ये बता दीजिए।
अब ये चले गए।
भारतीय जनता पार्टी ने पहले पशुपति पारस को लिया, फिर उनको डिस किया, वहां इनको ले लिया।
वो गलत है, आप गलत है कि नहीं है?
कुमार को लिया, अभी उनको डिस किया। ओम प्रकाश राजभर रोज गाली देते हैं और उसके बावजूद जो है वो अलायंस वो होते हैं। मैं लॉगर हेड आपको बता रहा हूं क्या होता है आज की डेट में। पद्मजा जी, द पोजीशन ऑफ बीजेपी इज कि नीदर द पेजेंट्स, जो किसान हैं वो इनके खिलाफ हैं, जो महिलाएं हैं भाजपा से बेटी बचाओ की स्थिति हो।
Okay, fine, but Kamlakar ji, my only humble submission to you is, the more you are going to push the Samajwadi Party against a wall, the more activated, Imran Masood gets. There is also Asaduddin Owaisi waiting in the wings. वो तो 2-3 बार डोरे डाल चुके हैं समाजवादी पार्टी के ऊपर कि आप हमारी तरफ आ जाइए।
दूसरे देखिए, मैं फिर आपको बता रहा हूं पद्मजा जी, हमारा आपस में क्या है। पहली चीज आपको बता दूं, न इमरान मसूद चीजों को फाइनल करने वाले हैं, न आशु मलिक फाइनल करने वाले हैं, न रेहान जी फाइनल करेंगे, न मैं करूंगा। वो तो पार्टी हायरार्की करती है।
अरे सर, उनका नाम तारिक खान है, आपने उनको रेहान क्यों बना दिया, उनको गोपाल नंदन बना दिया।
देश के दोनों युवा नेतृत्व जो है वो साथ में थे।
इस शो पे नामकरण सबका हो गया है, बट थैंकफुली संजू वर्मा रिमेन संजू वर्मा। यस, फाइनल वर्ड टू यू। इट्स नॉट गोइंग टू बी रेहान और गोपाल नंदन हु डिसाइड्स द अलायंस, इट्स गोइंग टू बी राहुल गांधी, अखिलेश यादव, एंड दे आर ग्रेट फ्रेंड्स।
Padmaja, I always believe that politics is about winnability more than anything else. Do you think Akhilesh Yadav will not look at the fact that the Congress party was given 61 seats by Tejasvi Yadav to contest in Bihar, and the Congress won only 6 seats with a strike rate of 9.8%? Do you think Akhilesh Yadav is not going to look at the Congress party's pathetic track record in Jammu Kashmir, where BJP swept the Jammu region and Omar Abdullah swept the Kashmir region, and Congress was reduced to nothingness? Do you think Akhilesh Yadav will not look at the fact that the Congress backstabbed DMK and went and sat in the godi of PVK despite having a pre-poll alliance with the DMK? Khanjar bhoka hai.
Padmaja ji, I think there is big possibility of BJP coming to power again.
Maybe they will look at all of that, but then they will also look at 2024 and they will see the looming prospect of the BJP and they will decide that enemy's enemy is their friend and they get together on that cycle. But let's see what happens to Imran Masood in the interim. For the time being though, all gentlemen and Sanju Verma, thanks very much for joining me. Thanks for watching, because remember, as always, when it really matters, the buck stops here.
हर पल मनाओ केसरी त्योहार। विमल, बोलो जुबान केसरी।
हिंदुस्तान मिले हिंदुस्तान से, देश का टायर जेके टायर।
No matter what your day throws at you, stay in the spa state of mind with the coolest spa at home.
थोड़े में ज्यादा स्वाद, यही तो है इसकी खास बात।
वाओ मामा, क्या स्वाद है।
अरे मेरे राजा,
मसाला।
जानते हैं मैं एलीट मैट्रिमोनी क्यों रिकमेंड करता हूँ? 17 years of experience, largest database of elite profiles, और 100% confidentiality. Elite Matrimony, India's most successful matchmaking service for the elite.
आर प्योर शाही पनीर मसाला, डिलीशियस, हेल्दी, एवरीडे।
सबके हिस्से, सबके हिस्से, धूप का टुकड़ा, धूप का टुकड़ा, हमसे खेल गया, देश का मुखड़ा।
रिन्यू बदल रहा है इंडिया की क्लीन एनर्जी की कहानी, और इसके साथ है सूरज, हवा और पानी। रिन्यू क्लीन एनर्जी हमसे है।
मीठा या नमकीन, चाहे जैसे खाओ, 100% सूजी से बनी आर प्योर वर्मिसेली, स्वादिष्ट, सेहतमंद, हर रोज।
ऑप्टोरोमा मैनुअल वाइंडिंग, 4 लोगों के पास है।
कुछ इससे भी अनोखा।
कमला पसंद, सिर्फ एक अनोखा स्वाद। कमला पसंद पान मसाला।
New rules of engagement. Ambitions crossing borders. Voices refusing to wait their turn. India is chasing gears. Faster, bolder, more restless. It doesn't stop. Neither do we. NDTV, when it really matters.
मैम, आपकी पार्टी का और आपकी सरकार का अगर संवेदना हमारे साथ होता ना, तो हमें बीजेपी वाला नहीं कहा जाता। हम बीजेपी से हैं मैम। बताइए, हम आपके बच्चे नहीं हैं।
Jharkhand's Gen Z asked for their rights. Jharkhand's Gen Z didn't give up.
ये मैं आपको दिखाऊं, देखिए ये लाठी चार्ज हो रहा है। रांची पुलिस की टीम जो है इस पूरे इलाके को खाली करा रही है।
And neither did we. वहाँ पर मजदूर के बच्चे बैठे हैं, गरीब के बच्चे बैठे हैं।
आप एक बार आपको तो बात
आप तो आ ही सकते हैं ना। रांची में कितना दूर है सर?
The battle in Jharkhand is won, but their war continues.
And it is time for them to be heard. Young people, those who have been demanding a better future.
NDTV stands with the students, because when it really matters, the buck stops here.
केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ रे, दिल झूमे देखो मतवारा हुआ रे। केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ।
हर पल मनाओ केसरी त्योहार। विमल, बोलो जुबान केसरी।
Electricity bill paid.
Really?
Your mobile recharge is done.
How?
Make all kinds of payments using the Bheem Payments app and get cashback of up to ₹300 every month. Use Bheem app to pay.
It's the Mahi way.
No matter what your day throws at you, stay in the spa state of mind with the coolest spa at home.
थोड़े में ज्यादा स्वाद, यही खास बात।
वाओ मम्मा, क्या स्वाद है?
अरे मेरे राजा,
जानते हैं मैं एलीट मैट्रिमोनी क्यों रेकमेंड करता हूं? 17 years of experience, largest database of elite profiles और 100% confidentiality. Elite Matrimony, India's most successful matchmaking service for the elite.
आर प्योर शाही पनीर मसाला, डिलीशियस, हेल्दी एवरी डे।
I'm in Ahmedabad's gift city today. From the lens of the regulator, how close do you think you are at this moment to achieving the dream of being Singapore, Hong Kong, New York or London when it comes to being an international center of finance?
What are global investors looking at? Policy stability, there's legal certainty, and there's also tax certainty. In the last 5 years, the government of India has pretty much put in place all these things. Our regulations are now benchmarked to the best in the world.
Let's take the passporting of KYC, know your customer norms. Even that doesn't seem to be as easy as a lot of international bankers expect.
We are also doing a pilot for unassisted Aadhaar face authentication for NRIs.
You've seen this model operate internationally. How far has India been able to evolve with Gift City till this moment in time?
Started as a place for corporates, now wealth managers, individuals, private banking, a lot is happening.
Which are the instruments that you think that have now come up around Gift City in a way that people really need to know it, and if they don't, they're missing out?
Let's say you're going to travel. Why do you want to pay a markup on your money you spend out? Right? You should be able to spend directly from your bank account, and the bank account should be ideally able to recognize the currency.
चलिए हमारे तो कुलचे आ गए, आप और मैं तो ये खा लेंगे, but all these international fancy pant HSBC type bankers, I doubt they'll be okay with these kulchas.
I agree with you that social infra बनते बनेगा. Speed काफी है बनने में. पहले तो ये कुलचे भी नहीं थे, अभी कुलचे तो बढ़िया आ गए हैं.
मीठा या नमकीन, चाहे जैसे खाओ, 100% सूजी से बनी आर प्योर वर्मिसेली, स्वादिष्ट, सेहतमंद, हर रोज।
बड़े बड़े इम्तिहानों से गुजरता है, वक्त तराशता है जिसे, तो जाने क्या क्या ना करता है। जब तक खुशबू सबसे बेहतरीन न बन जाए, आराम के लिए नहीं ठहरता है। जब तक लाजवाब न बन जाए, उसे नहीं इत्मीनान है। तभी तो रिचमंड बनना नहीं आसान है।
New rules of engagement, ambitions crossing borders, voices refusing to wait their turn.
In Day Night with me, Shiv Aroor. We've got a big show lined up for you as always. Let's get you the headlines tonight at 9. US ambassador to India becomes the first top American diplomat to visit Kashmir since Operation Sindoor. Sergio Gore says the United States will reconsider its travel advisory for Kashmir, calls it an integral part of India. Outrage over viral video of a woman threatening security forces in Ladakh. We are Gen Z, she roars, all of it caught on camera and triggering a huge viral meltdown on social media. That's my lead story tonight. Omar Abdullah says such instances will erode the goodwill of Gen Z. Congress sticks to its Vande Mataram stand. Its working committee decides that only 2 stanzas of the national song will play at party events. Congress says it was a decision taken by Gandhi, Nehru, Bose and Sardar Patel. Tamil Nadu Chief Minister announces baby bonanza. OK's 1-year full maternity leave for mothers having a 3rd child. Ally Congress questions the move. India beats Pakistan 5-3 in the Hockey World Cup to qualify for the 2nd round. It's a big story we are tracking. That's right, NDTV covers hockey as well. Coming up on the show tonight, an obnoxious video that has gone completely viral in the last few hours is my lead story. It's a meltdown of shameless entitlement where a woman says, I am Gen Z because a road has been closed in Ladakh. I'm going to show you that full uncensored video right here on my lead story. Also coming up, a podcast episode right here on NDTV has caused a complete meltdown across the border in Pakistan, which simply cannot stomach some of the things that have been said on this episode. I've curated the highlights for you, and we'll be getting big reactions on how NDTV's podcast has led to a total eruption in Pakistan. Let's begin with our top story tonight. Tonight we lead with a viral video from somewhere in Ladakh, and there's a very good chance you've already seen this video. I'm going to put the sound up in just a moment, but if you haven't, buckle up to be seriously triggered, viewer, by what I'm about to show you. Not because this woman you're about to hear deserves another second of national attention, but because her obnoxious little roadside meltdown in a forward area of Ladakh captures a particularly ugly species of tourist entitlement. This is Ladakh, not very far from the frontier with Pakistan and POK. A road is closed, as it often happens, because of military deployments and VIP movements, all controlled by the security forces because it is a militarized area. Security personnel are doing their job, and this tourist woman decides that rules apparently don't apply to her because, wait for it, we are Gen Z. You'll hear her shout it in just a moment. Now take a deep breath, viewer. This is my warning to you, and watch this obnoxious tantrum.
We are Gen Zs. We are not tolerate this nonsense. We are not tolerate this nonsense. आपको मुझे बताओ, आप बैठोगे या नहीं बैठोगे? चलो चलो कैसे रोकेंगे? 5 घंटे हो गए, निकालो सब लोग गाड़ी और चलो। वो कश्मीर एयरपोर्ट पे नहीं उतरे। हम नहीं जाएंगे, किसी को जाने भी नहीं देंगे। हम लोग पैसे देके यहाँ घूमने आते हैं या फिर ताला लगा दिया इन्होंने? कश्मीरियों के साथ तो करते हैं, अब बाहर के टूरिस्टों के साथ भी कर रहे हैं। देखो इन्होंने किसी ताला लगा दिया, फिर अपना नाम भी नहीं बताया और वहां चले गए। ये देखो यहाँ पे कोई भी जवाबदारी के लिए कोई नहीं बैठा है।
Now, we don't have a name for whoever this woman is. She claims to be Gen Z, but she says, we are Gen Z. She says, wagging an obnoxious warning finger at security personnel and people trying to calm her down, and explain that security is non-negotiable in a forward area. She throws her ugly weight around even with a commander of an army over there. She's talking in a rude manner even to an army personnel who's trying to create a security cordon in that area. This is a forward area. This is a militarized area. So what if you're Gen Z? So what if she's Gen Z? Is Gen Z some kind of security clearance? Is it a get out of jail free card? Is it a VIP pass? A license to behave like a spoilt brat when someone says no? Is it, as Omar Abdullah correctly says, the new version of Tujhe Pata Nahi Mera Baap Kaun Hai? And could someone please tell this tiresome, unstable lady that dragging Kashmiris into your holiday inconvenience isn't some enlightened activism? You're merely radiating and amplifying your absolute stupidity and ignorance. Any sensible Gen Z should be furious that this woman is using their generation's popular label as an alibi for her own terrible behavior, which thankfully has been caught on camera, because this is now symbolic of a kind of entitlement and arrogance that has seeped into this generation. Because here's what Madam Gen Z apparently doesn't know. Road closures for security movements in Kashmir and Ladakh exist for a reason. Does anyone remember Pulwama? She certainly seems old enough to remember Pulwama. Pulwama taught India at a horrific cost what can happen when a civilian vehicle penetrates a convoy movement or a security road closure. VIP movement, military movement, doesn't matter. It's a forward area. 40 CRPF personnel died at that time. Does this lady claiming to be Gen Z know what security personnel risk simply moving from one place to another in Ladakh and Kashmir? Literally every day, every hour. Has she ever spent more than a few hours in one of these militarized zones? She's there on vacation. Has she ever spent time there doing anything worthwhile? Does she know Eastern Ladakh remains one of the world's most heavily militarized frontiers after the India-China standoff that continues even now? Does she, in the middle of her ugly, obnoxious meltdown, understand that near forward areas, rules aren't optional just because they interfere with your taxi ride? That failure of security is not an option because of the enormous cost that must be paid with human lives of personnel. Nobody enjoys road closures. Let's be very clear, viewer. Nobody enjoys waiting. Nobody enjoys imposing them. As a citizen, it's fine to huff and puff, to complain, question, even fume a little bit. It's fine. but screaming at security personnel saying, my taxes pay your salaries, making idiotic political comparisons with Kashmir and brandishing Gen Z like some generational diplomatic immunity. Someone should tell this unstable lady, that's not rebellion or courage. She's looking like a fool. This is loser-level attention-seeking, entitlement and breathtaking stupidity. Now, I don't know this lady's name, nor am I frankly interested, but she should know she isn't being oppressed. She's being asked to wait. So soldiers or others guarding our frontiers, entitled to security in forward areas, can safely pass. And she had damn well obeyed. And now I want to make you watch that full video again because, viewer, why should I suffer alone? Please watch this entire thing again because this is not one tourist. This is a symbol of entitlement that is seeping in. Just take a look at this.
We are Gen Zs. We are not tolerate this nonsense. We are not tolerate this nonsense. आप लोग मुझे बताओ, आप लोग बैठोगे या नहीं बैठोगे? चलो चलो कैसे रोकेंगे? 5 घंटे हो गए, निकालो सब लोग गाड़ी और चलो। वो कश्मीर एयरपोर्ट पे नहीं उतरे। हम नहीं जाएंगे, किसी को जाने भी नहीं देंगे। हम लोग पैसे देके यहाँ घूमने आते हैं या फिर ये सब टॉलरेट करने आते हैं? ताला लगा दिया इन्होंने, कश्मीरियों के साथ तो करते हैं, अब बाहर के टूरिस्टों के साथ भी कर रहे हैं। देखो इन्होंने किसी ताला लगा दिया, फिर अपना नाम भी नहीं बताया और वहाँ चले गए। ये देखो यहाँ पे कोई भी जवाबदारी के लिए कोई नहीं बैठा है, यहाँ पर यहाँ से कोई नहीं हिलेगा। आपको जो समझना है मैंने उकसाया, आपने उकसाया, ओके हाँ मैं ठीक है उकसाया। हम किसी को नहीं छोड़ेंगे, हमारे टैक्स से सबको सैलरी जाती है, हम इसीलिए टैक्स भरते हैं। ये लोग हमसे ऊपर हो गए। अब आपका जो भी हुआ था मैंने उसकी वीडियो बनाई, अगर पार्लियामेंट तक बात नहीं गई ना मेरा नाम बदल देना।
And I want to know what both Gen Z as well as army veterans and people who've served in these areas actually think about this. Because frankly, viewer, according to me, there's nothing to debate. Nobody in a right mind would defend this kind of obnoxious behavior by someone dealing with security personnel in a forward area. And you can see how calmly both civilians and military personnel are talking to this petulant lady claiming to be a Gen Z and saying, we are Gen Z, as if that is some kind of a threat or a license for this kind of ugly meltdown. Joining me live, Captain Yashika Tyagi is a Army veteran, also a Kargil war veteran. Ojas Bhandari is a Gen Z influencer and creator. Wing Commander Gitanjali Singh is a well-known defense expert, and Major Samarpal Tur is also an expert and formerly with the Special Forces. Welcome to all of you and thank you very much for being with me. Captain Yashika Tyagi, thank you for your service. My first question to you, ma'am, what goes through your mind when you see this video? I'm sure you've already seen it. I have detailed the reasons why it displays a complete sense of entitlement and ignorance. But as someone who has literally defended the country in areas like this, what goes through your mind when you see someone say, we are Gen Z, and, shout at security personnel because her car has been made to wait?
Jai Hind, Shiv. You have asked me my true thoughts when I heard the sentence, तुम्हारी तनख्वाह हमारे टैक्स पेयर के पैसे से आती है. तो लेट मी टेल एवरीबॉडी दैट कोई तनख्वाह इतनी ज्यादा नहीं होती है, कोई भी तनख्वाह कि सिपाही अपनी जान दे दे. दिस इज प्योरली दैट सेंस ऑफ पेट्रियोटिज्म फॉर द नेशन एंड नाम नमक निशान दैट पीपल गो थ्रू ऑल एक्सट्रीम्स. Not tankha, not taxpayer ka paisa. And there is a dangerous cultural tendency these days towards uniformed people, probably because they are the symbol of the authority these days. And just, if it needs to be challenged, the person who's standing behind the barricade is not making the decisions.
Yeah.
The person behind the barricade is simply working in operational capacity. You do not know the security threat. It was the same area where Battle of Kargil was fought. You have just mentioned Pulwama, when a car breached the convoy. Imagine if something like this would happen.
And of course, in at this time when Yatra season is on, timing before that, timing after that, we all know that this is not a time that is to be taken lightly in the valley or in the eastern Ladakh.
Correct.
And democracy gives you the right to question, of course, but it does not give you the right to speak poorly to anybody, leave alone a person in uniform.
No, you're absolutely right. You know, I am personally offended by this woman saying, you know, my taxes pay your salary. I cannot even imagine what veterans and people in the army are feeling. And first of all, I want to commend the army officer and the soldiers over there who so calmly were dealing with a major tour. You know, I am feeling anger today at this woman's behavior. I can't imagine what you're feeling. You've served in these places.
I have served for 2 years at the Amarnath cave. So I've come across thousands or maybe lakhs of tourists. So basically what happens is the fact check is the weather is very unpredictable in this area, Shiv. And suddenly the clouds came in and the defense minister and the army chief were on a sortie in helicopters to the forward posts in these areas. So they had to make an emergency landing at Gumri helipad. So because of that urgency, you know, the overall schedule, the plan, everything, the itinerary got changed. The forces were, you know, there was but most of the forces security cover is at the Amarnath Yatris, not here. So immediately they had to cater for everything. So the thing is, this lady probably lost her patience. That 5 hours of wait is quite a lot. I understand that. And being from the forces, I have dealt with people who have hurled abuses, who've lost their cool, who have a nervous breakdown. So the security forces, we are already briefed that in case somebody gets aggressive, you got to go the opposite direction. You got to totally melt down. You got to calm them. You got to be friendly with them. You got to make them understand that there is no alternative. They have to now go by road. And they are VIP dignitaries. It's a defense minister and your present army chief. They are not any normal people. So because of this contingency, unfortunately, this delay of 5 hours took place. The young girl lost her patience levels, and that is where
but you're being you know, like a true soldier, like a true soldier, Major Toor, you're being very generous, and you're saying that your job was to calm her down. I appreciate that. I think it's very nice that you're saying that. But we live in a world where people have no business being so ignorant. When you go to a forward area for a holiday, how dare you say my taxes pay your salary? How dare you say we are Gen Z expecting some kind of a free pass for your vehicle to go through? This is ridiculous. I don't make any excuses for this kind of bad behavior. Ojas is here. She's from the Gen Z. Ojas, how do you feel when this woman in this video, I don't know if she's a Gen Z or a Gen Zilla, but she says, you know, we are Gen Z expecting some kind of VIP treatment. Almost like a threat saying, we are Gen Z, you better not treat me badly and keep my vehicle waiting here.
First of all, Shiv sir, we are not tolerating this. I am very sure that she is not a Gen Z. This is extremely shameful and rage baiting. Our generation is fully against it. And what the hell was that Kashmir dialogue? I am so sorry to everyone present here that you guys had to hear it. You do not deserve this. A huge respect to everyone in uniform, to our army, police, everyone protecting us and maintaining the law and order. We literally sleep peacefully because of you all. Ma'am, you mentioned about Kargil. I recently watched Operation Safed Sagar. I'm also reading this book on Operation Sindoor. And honestly, it was so emotional because you see what our soldiers have gone through, what they have sacrificed. And when you see videos like these from Ladakh, you're just like, what is our generation actually doing? Sir, the Ladakh video where Colonel Nikunj Dharma was only trying to maintain discipline, law and order, a tourist is seen confronting the army personnel. This is Ladakh. As you said that these are strategically sensitive border areas, right? The army is not there randomly. Security protocols exist for a reason, and they are also who allow us as tourists to roam freely, safely, you know.
Exactly.
We are tourists. The bare minimum we can do is respect them.
I completely agree. Captain Yashika, I wonder where your sense of calm comes from, honestly. Because, you know, you're a Kargil war veteran. This is, you know, this was your zone of operations. Who knows better than you that it is soldiers defending these areas that allow tourists to flourish in those places? That makes this kind of behavior even more inexcusable in my view.
See, I totally agree with the Major Tour's definition of the training that is given to Fauji's.
Yeah.
If we start giving into our stress, or if we start giving into the public shouting like this, we will never be able to do our work.
We really salute you for this calm.
The uniform is like an
we really
exoskeleton.
salute you for this.
But having said that, I understand. See, I understand both the sides. I understand the frustration of a civilian because now I am one because I'm not wearing a uniform. I understand the soldier because I have worn the uniform and been in those shoes. I understand the terrain because I have operated on those terrains. I have seen that area very, very recently because I was part of a car rally and have driven on those areas. Having said that, it is prime responsibility of our generation and also of Fauji's, since Fauji's in uniform will not come on programs, and so the mantle falls on veterans like us. You see, inconvenience must be highlighted because it is your legitimate right. But sorry, boss, abuse is not.
Yeah.
In very clear, emphatic terms, abusing a uniform is not your right.
No, I completely agree. I completely agree. Some things are not up for discussion. I am very sorry. You know, we are a democracy and I am a Democrat at heart. But I am also a national security journalist, and I know there are places in this country where people pay with their lives to keep things normal. Wing Commander Gitanjali, you know this also. You've served in forward areas. You know what it takes to keep people safe. And like Captain Yashika said, this woman is ranting at the security, saying, "Ye Kashmir mein bhi karte the, ab tourist ke saath kar rahe." Basically, I'm paraphrasing, but that's what she's saying. Activism, obnoxiousness, entitlement, and ignorance all rolled into one.
Indeed, Shiv, it is really shocking, I would say, because to say something, a series of things that she's, uttered out, like everybody just brought out. We understand the frustration when you're traveling through these areas, but as a tourist, as an Indian citizen, do people understand what it takes to make that borderland secure and make it tourist worthy?
Exactly.
There are people slogging in and out, and it doesn't mean that it's your entitlement to be there. We as a nation, civilians, citizens, the security personnel, the army, air force, everybody comes together and makes the nation, and doing their own bits of things that we're supposed to do. Ranting out things, even she goes to those kind of lens where she, gathers around all the people and just tells them, let's barge in, where there's a lock and all those things. But she's not trying to understand and get an answer. See, I understand. She's saying that Gen Z, I am frustrated, I want answers. But are you questioning why?
No, but the thing is, she's not even saying I am Gen Z and I want answers. She is saying we are Gen Z. It is not even she's not even wanting to be understood. It's a warning, Wing Commander Gitanjali. It's a warning. It's like saying, don't mess with me, I am Gen Z.
Yeah, I would just bring out one more thing here. These Gen Zs are getting commission. If you say generation, these are younger generations.
Exactly.
In all three services doing excellent job. We saw people on the 15th of August. Flag unfurling, leading the contingents, everywhere doing excellent job in nation building. It's not just military and, but other spheres also. And then we see one more of the Gen Z just trying to, I would say take a hideout into being an entitled brat, or maybe, I don't know what, but just questioning uniform, questioning the security forces at areas which have been made tourist worthy by these none other than security forces and the arrangements.
Ojas, as a influencer from the Gen Z, how does it make you feel? Okay, we'll come back to Ojas, but Major Tur, this my taxes pay your salary, ये पहले कश्मीर में करते थे, अब टूरिस्ट के साथ कर रहे हैं. It is very difficult not to react to such things. Of course, you have great training to do that, but I'm just saying that it is very troubling that someone would use these in a normal conversation. Everybody is inconvenienced. Who doesn't face inconvenience? But to say these things, that is what is troublesome here.
It's Shiv, I totally agree with you. It's a very shocking statement. And I just hope it doesn't become a trend.
Yeah.
And that shows the mental blueprint of any, if I wouldn't call her as the representative of all the youngsters of
Yeah,
today.
Definitely not.
But
Definitely
as an individual, she has a very dangerous mindset. It is it could be anti-forces mindset, or whatever has happened recently at Jantar Mantar. So keeping that in mind, she's equating the paramilitary forces with what the forces in J&K and at the borders are. So they're mixing up things. So I would just want to say that these are kids who need to be actually made more aware. Probably they are lacking knowledge. They are going by the basic kahi suni baatein, in the public. So they are agitated. They lose their mind. They are very materialistic. They are not emotional.
They want to go viral on Instagram.
So to get good views, they don't mind going, with the negative side of themselves also.
No, but
not knowing that it has a psychological impact on all of us who are watching them speak.
No, it is. I am disgusted. I am going to not mince my words tonight. I am disgusted by this, and I applaud and salute the measure and sobriety with which the three of you veterans have reacted to this. But Ojas, for someone like this to say we are Gen Z as way of almost threatening these people. To not mess with her, saying, yeah, I am from Gen Z, basically saying, you've seen what the Gen Z have done, so don't mess with me. I'm not here to follow your rules. I'm feeling disgusted. I wonder how you feel, Ojas.
No, it's really sad, Shiv sir. And again, as I said, that we are giving no validation to this, and this is really defamatory for us as Gen Zs. Do you remember the CJP protest at Jantar Mantar? More than 100 police personnels were injured.
Yeah.
They were a content for, few people. And I am really sorry again, as I said, that you had to go through this. The constant reels insulting Indian Army, mocking soldiers, their uniforms, and even using disgusting phrases as like Neela bathroom ke liye, lal toilet ke liye, whatever went viral. This is not right. Is this any trend which real Gen Zs are missing? I am a Gen Z too, right? The soldier you are mocking has a family. The police officer you are making fun of has children. And those children are also Gen Zs.
Yeah.
So would you do the same to your brother, sister, mother, father or anyone? No. Then why are you doing this to our Indian Army, IAF, Navy, everyone? This is unfair and I do not support this at all.
Captain Yashika, I have one final question for you. We have nothing personal against this tourist. We don't even know what her name is, but it has become symbolic of a kind of mentality. This hunger for attention, hunger for virality, entitlement, obnoxiousness, ignorance. I keep repeating, it is a dangerous cocktail. And therefore, an example needs to be made. Remember, this is the top story on NDTV at 9 p.m. I don't choose this story lightly, but I know that everyone is talking about it. This video has gone so viral, madam, that everyone is talking about it. Even all of you have seen it. So I want to ask you, Captain Yashika, if you were addressing this young lady face to face, what would be your message to her? What would be the message of a Kargil war veteran to this girl who says, my taxes pay your salaries, and you guys used to do this in Kashmir, now you're doing it here, and I am a Gen Z, therefore you can't mess with me. Captain Yashika, last word.
Shiv, if my limited information about the age group of Gen Z goes, and Ojas, please correct me if I am wrong, it is somewhere between 20 to 25?
Yeah. Yes, correct.
Yeah? Okay. So I would just like to tell everybody who is listening, not only this girl, And I am sure Major Toor and Wing Commander Gitanjali will also count the years when they joined armed forces. I was 22 years old when I wore those stars on my shoulders for the first time. I was 25 years old when I was operating in that exactly same area. When Kargil war started, I was part of it. And not only that, I was carrying a child in my belly, 4th, 5th, and 6th month of pregnancy. But though we may not be called Gen Zs, but we were exactly the same age as the Gen Zs today. तो वो उम्र का तूफान क्या होता है और उस तूफान को सही तरीके से डायरेक्ट किया जाए तो उसके बाद क्या निखर के लोग निकलते हैं बाहर. I have seen that. And the three veterans here are symbolic. We are the people who are representing this armed forces. Can we forget Vikram Batra? Can we forget Manoj Pandey? Those young people, Gen Zs of their age, what have they done in their lives? So, Gen Z is a big responsibility, is a big mantle. Our nation is looking at you. हम लाए हैं तूफान से कश्ती निकाल के इस देश को रखना मेरे बच्चों संभाल के. That is all I want to tell every Gen Z here. You are our future. You are going to take us to years ahead. Take care of this nation. It's a huge responsibility on you.
You know, it takes a true war veteran, a military veteran, to show this much generosity of heart and generosity of spirit after seeing something as offensive as what we have just seen. And I am not surprised at all. Having spent virtually my entire career dealing with military personnel and their families, I am not surprised even for a moment that all of you have shown such a great amount of munificence and generosity at this bad behavior. I salute you once again and I thank you for your service. Ojas, thank you for your thoughts today. Very, very important to hear the Gen Z and to hear what your generation thinks. It is unignorable and we will always represent it here on NDTV. Thank you to all four of you for joining me here tonight on India Matters. Thank you. Viewer, it is incredible. The latest episode of an NDTV podcast and a TV documentary on Operation Sindoor have triggered a state-level meltdown in Pakistan. The latest episode of NDTV's hugely popular Control Alt Defense podcast that I co-anchor with my colleague Vishnu Shom, where we interviewed the recently retired Vice Chief of the Air Staff, Air Marshal Nagesh Kapoor, has revealed extraordinary new details about some of Operation Sindoor's most sensitive missions. And those disclosures have now exploded into headlines. For the first time, official confirmation, for instance, that women fighter pilots conducted some of the airstrikes during Operation Sindoor. New details of BrahMos operations that hit Pakistani bases in the south of Pakistan. And the extraordinary dilemma over whether India should strike military targets inside Karachi city itself. More than a year after Operation Sindoor, this podcast of ours on NDTV has clearly touched a very raw nerve across the border. Pakistan's Directorate General of Inter-Services Public Relations, basically the state propaganda arm, has now issued a lengthy, furious rebuttal raging against India's account of the operation and accusing India of rewriting history. They're indicating NDTV as well. India has oftentimes been criticized for winning the battle but losing the information war. But tonight you have a fuming Pakistan triggered to the extreme by one single episode of an NDTV podcast and a TV documentary on Operation Sindoor. And that should tell you quite a bit about who has a bigger point to prove. I want to introduce my guest tonight before I run you through the highlights of what this podcast has in it that has triggered this angry reaction from Pakistan. John Spencer, who's a world-renowned war expert and also a scholar who is researching Operation Sindoor directly. Sushant Sareen, author, scholar, avid Pakistan watcher and commentator. Air Marshal R.G.K. Kapoor is former Air Officer Commanding-in-Chief of the Central Air Command. Welcome, gentlemen. Thank you very much for being with me. A request to all of you to try and keep your answers as brief as possible so I can get as many reactions as possible on everything that I'm going to show you from this podcast. The first highlight that appears to have triggered a big meltdown is about women fighter pilots participating in those airstrikes. Here's what Air Marshal Nagesh Kapoor, recently retired Vice Chief of the Air Staff, said on our podcast.
There were women pilots also who were involved, right, in an operational role. Fighter pilots I'm talking about.
Yes, they would have been, yes. We never discriminated between the fact that they were girl pilots or boy pilots. They went through the same bit of training that everyone goes through. Once they were commissioned, thereafter they went through the same grind in the squadrons that anyone would go through without any bias towards there being women or nothing of the kind. In case the corrective actions were to be taken, then they must have been taken when the CEOs and the flight commanders would have pulled them up by the ears to make sure that they fell in line. And so they were just another fighter air crew as far as we were concerned.
Vishnu Shom, my co-anchor and co-host on the Control All Defense podcast, is with me live for a quick word on this. Vishnu, this one official word from the Air Force that women pilots were part of the airstrikes, they flew strike missions during Operation Sindoor, has created a shockwave in Indian media and across the border.
Well, it has, wouldn't it? I mean, some of the details which the former Vice Chief, when he retired as Vice Chief just a few weeks back, are fairly startling. For starters, we now know that Bholari, and you saw an image of Bholari very briefly over there, was struck by a fighter jet, at least one of a Sukhoi 30, something that he also mentioned, operating from one of the air bases under the Southwestern Air Command. Secondly, women fighter pilots were a part of Operation Sindoor. The Indian Air Force went about it quietly. They didn't make a big, show and dance or a song and dance out of it. And this is something which just shows that barrier, call it what you want, that glass ceiling has been shattered once and for all. And the entire argument of, what happens if a woman pilot is shot down, forget about it. They've been to combat. They went to combat first in Kargil on helicopters. They've been into combat on fighter jets right now. So let's forget about that. It's not about gender. It's about capability. And that's what these women have been able to do. But the attack on Malir Cant, and this was a question which you asked the Air Marshal, how India actually went about doing that. Details about how the Southwestern Air Command targeted the radars in Arif Bala, Pasrur, Chunia and elsewhere. Those were shaping operations that led up to the major strikes. These were all very major details which came out in that podcast. More details, I would hope, keep coming out a year after Op Sindoor.
Definitely will, because, we've got many more episodes of the podcast to do with those who are part of Operation Sindoor. Vishnu, thanks very much for being with me on that story that has created all these shockwaves. Now I want to play a second small chunk from the podcast, and then I'll bring my guests back in on this. How the Southwestern Air Command, which is headquartered in Gandhinagar, Gujarat, was responsible for the many BrahMos airstrikes on key targets, including something that became the face of those airstrikes during Operation Sindoor, the Bholari Air Base in Pakistan. Take a look at what he said.
And so describe that Bholari mission, sir.
What do you want me to describe there? I mean, there were aircraft that, the weapons that were used, the aircraft were to get airborne and...
BrahMos?
Yeah. So
I just wanted to say it out loud once.
Yeah, so the BrahMos was used, absolutely right.
So this is a fascinating, series of nuggets of detail. Many of these things we already knew, Air Marshal Kapoor. But here, for those who are avid war watchers, and I'm sure John will also be enthused, and so will Sushant, that now we know that some of those strikes came from the Southwestern Command's area of operations. And here we have a confirmation that Bholari, which became a kind of face of the entire airstrike series, was conducted from the Southwestern Air Command.
So if we see, first point I want to make is that I think nationally we have come out of the closet. If you see from Uri to Balakot, how we expressed ourselves, I think there is much more clarity, there is much more confidence, and there's much more faith in the leadership at the political level with the leadership within the Air Force to come out and clearly say. When we spoke about narrative war, this is the narrative that sets the record straight. The second point is Bolari. If you see, Bolari is right opposite Southwestern Air Command, and so the best aeroplanes would be from there.
Yeah.
The kind of distances that we see across the border, from the border to Bolari, is the only weapon. Two weapons that could have been used were either BrahMos or Scalp.
Yeah.
And so with Su-30s being there, BrahMos becomes the obvious choice.
Absolutely.
The confidence in BrahMos rose primarily because we had very, very good strikes in the north and the west. That is, whether it was Noor Khan, whether it was Sargodha, which paved the way for the building up of confidence in the Air Force that yes, this weapon is very accurate.
Yes.
And we can use it to the extremes of its ranges. This confidence was further built up with the kind of interceptions that were taking place by S-400.
Yeah.
So if you see over 2-3 days, the confidence in everything increased. And this confidence, now whether Pakistan had a narrative or whatever it is, the fact is that the pain was inflicted on Pakistan. And that was visible in the satellite image.
No, that's very true. Sushant, this demonstrates also a confidence in releasing, information. A few years ago, I might have thought, oh, this is very operationally sensitive. But the Air Force seems pretty confident in putting out these pieces of information that have come out for the first time in this podcast. For instance, where the BrahMos actually flew from to hit Bolari.
Yeah, Shiv, aside of that, I must still add that I think we should have come out with this information far earlier than what
I agree.
The narrative wars are not just about setting the record straight, as the Air Marshal is saying, which is correct. You need to set the record straight. But you need to set the record straight in record time, right? Otherwise, the other guy has already said what he had to say, and he has done all sorts of drum beating, and their field marshal has become Trump's favorite field marshal. All of that has happened. So, one, you've been late off the mark.
Yeah.
Second, again, look, I think it was on the night of the 7th and 8th that Malir was hit, because we had a press conference the next day, and I think it was when the DGMOs were giving that press conference, they mentioned in passing Malir Cant. And at that point of time, my eyebrows went up. I said, but Malir is Karachi. So on the night of the 7th and 8th, when, Indian television had gone a little berserk, and there was that Karachi has been hit and Lahore has been hit, Karachi had actually been hit.
Yes.
What are we waiting for? What was it that the people who are in charge of the narrative warfare, the information warfare, why were they sitting on this? For example, if on that night or the next morning you had declared that we have hit Karachi, Malir, because nobody in India knows Malir, right?
Correct.
So if you had said that we've hit Karachi cantonment in Malir, there would have been a lot of pressure on the Pakistanis at that point of time. That hell, the Indians have come and hit you in your commercial capital.
Correct.
What is this, obtuseness in terms of information warfare?
And you're right, Sushant, because the information about Malir came out in that press conference only on the 10th. In fact, I have one small chunk that I want to play out for you on precisely that. Finish your point.
On the female pilots, again, I agree with the point which was being made that, look, pilots are pilots. Don't by their gender, they're warriors, they're air warriors. Great. But look, from the psychological impact, that entire bloody fake machismo of these Punjabi Muslims, you break it in one go that there was a female pilot who came and kicked your butt. The point is that they were claiming that they had shot down a female pilot and captured a female pilot. So they knew that female pilots were involved in going and bombing them, right? Why were we being shari about it? Why are we now talking about it?
Completely
Why not?
agree.
The psychological impact on that entire fake machismo of the Pakistanis is shot down by this one fact alone.
Correct. I completely agree. And in fact, I was in Uri when this information came out, and I was the one who actually posted on social media saying, I've spoken to this pilot in question and that she is absolutely fine. There's no question of her having been shot down anywhere. John, before I come to you, I want to play out this small nugget on what Sushant was talking about the intense deliberations that occurred before the Air Force decided to target the Malir cantonment, which is the first military target being struck inside a big city, that is Karachi. Take a look at what Air Marshal Kapoor said.
We were debating actually all the time, and whether to go for this or not to go for this, because like you said, it is right in the heart of a city. Yeah. And even when we took on those other radars at various air bases, when they were deployed inside an air base, we made sure that they were to a side where there were no domestic population, no domestic areas. So essentially that no civilians who had nothing to do with this war would get hurt. So there was this huge dilemma in the mind whether to go for this or not to go for this. Eventually we did. It was a very, very calculated decision.
John, very interesting, detail from the planning stages about whether or not to go ahead and strike a target inside Karachi. What did you think of that?
One, I want to thank you and Vishnu for the interview. You're helping me as I'm writing my book about Operation Sindoor with this first-person information from the Akash surface-to-air missile shooting down 2 Chinese UAVs, to confirmation on Bolari and the use of the BrahMos. I really appreciate that. On this last bit of information, actually in my research, it's showing whether it's you're taking 34 targets and narrowing them down to 9. And what are the criteria? Is that civilian harm mitigation and deterrence impact plus a non-escalatory kind of metric is always being thought through across the tri-services. Actually, when I was in Udhampur with the Northern Command Commander, when he retaliated to Pakistan artillery shelling Indian villages, he directly targeted the guns. It's like that escalation control is in every thought of every leader that's made during these 4 historic days.
Very, very true. And this next little segment that I'm playing for you gentlemen has actually triggered a huge conversation, because it's a lot of fun. It's sensitive, but it also gives you a sense of the human aspect of real-time planning when a war is actually on. This is Air Marshal Nagesh Kapoor, who retired as Vice Chief just a couple of weeks ago, talking about the delayed confirmation of the airborne timeline to prevent an abort order from the Air Force leadership, where he says he, quote-unquote, lied to the Air Force Chief. Very fun segment. Just listen to this.
So there's this time that I had to kind of lie to my chief for this mission. I had to kind of not tell him the truth. I wouldn't say that I lied to him. I didn't tell him the truth. And this was knowing fully well that he was he was seeing the same picture that I was seeing in my ops room. He was seeing the same picture sitting at this time AHOC, Air Headquarters Ops room, right? So he was seeing the same picture over there, and he asked me. He said, "Caps, position of those aircraft." I said, "Sir, getting airborne now." I knew for a fact that they're not going to get airborne for the next 15 minutes. So I lied to him in as far as time was concerned. So where are they now? So I said, "Sir, half an hour from weapon launch." I knew they were not there. I knew that I had to let them go. Those pilots had been waiting with those weapons suspended for such a long time. It would have been criminal for me not to let them go. So finally, when the weapon launched, and I told him, I said, "Sir, all gone, all aircraft returning." He said, "Tell me when they land." So these people landed, and much later thereafter, I mean, the Honorable Raksha Mantri visited us, and we were sitting and having lunch together, and the chief was on the same table also. And that is when, in front of the Honorable Raksha Mantri, I told him, I said, "Sir, I lied to you." He said, "Mujhe pata hai."
Marshal Kapoor, we were wondering whether we should keep that in the podcast, when it happened. But then it's such a fascinating human nugget in terms of planning. He said, I lied to my chief about the timeline so that an abort did not happen. Make sense of this for us. This is amazing.
See, you make your plans, you make your operational plans. As the campaign goes through, you have your targets which you want to take out. And you're going by that plan, and you don't want anybody to interfere there.
Yeah.
And when you have the confidence that there is clarity of purpose, there is clarity of direction, and that you have a free hand, then you know that the offensive purpose that you are in can be exercised. The fun part is that there was no context to timeline and which wave was going. And what was the date? And so when we put that into context, I think he would have thought, I'm just guessing, I'm sure he would have thought that, with whatever, because it's such a clear picture in ISCCS.
Yeah.
It's crystal clear, who's taking off, where each aeroplane is, where each weapon is going, everything is very clear.
Amazing.
And so even though he told the chief that there are 15 minutes, chief also knew at the same time that So you know that how it is playing out.
Yeah.
And the fact is that the objective that you have set out for becomes very, very important so far as you're not compromising the higher direction. So I think this was a very, very judicious decision that Nagesh took between the offensive action that would have actually been the final nail in the coffin. To not doing it where you would have you might not have been talking about Bolari or Jacob.
Yeah. Next segment, which I want to get John's view on, is on Air Marshal Kapoor talking to us about the US intelligence on the 9th of May, crucial, just a day before the ceasefire, warning that Pakistan planned to escalate using long-range and short-range ballistic missiles. Listen into this. It's the first time that this has been said.
The information had come to us from the United States, saying that and telling our leadership that from all the information that they had, Pakistan was going to up the ante, and so you could expect a massive strike. Now that strike, what could have caused it? I mean, what weapons would they have used for that kind of a strike? We were very sure that they were not flying their fighters. Because they did not fly their fighters. They hadn't flown their fighters for the past 3 or 4 days at all. Is nothing that we saw in the southwestern area of operations. They did not fly their fighters at all. So yes, it could have been. It would have been a very well educated guess to say that maybe ballistic missiles.
Yeah,
maybe yes.
John, with Pakistan's Air Force pretty much paralyzed, air defense paralyzed, ballistic missiles were coming next, said this US intelligence input. Have you been able to get into that in your research as well?
Absolutely. And I think the documentary mentions it as well. So we'll have a few more than one primary source. But you're right. That's the first time very clearly said in an interview. Absolutely, it comes out in the timeline, as much so as I think that missed shaping operation of hitting all the radars plays into what eventually happens, which is the overwhelming use of military force, which actually causes that de-escalation because of demonstrating so much power. Absolutely, that call from the United States has more than one person has kind of hinted at it, has mentioned it. Of course, I'll try to find both sides of that call or that information to include it in the book, but a critical moment in the timeline, and then the overwhelming nature, which is undeniable, of the response to that to make sure they know we can hit you anywhere, don't do it. I mean, it is a very important moment. Absolutely, Shiv.
That's exactly what this last little bit that I want to play out before I get Sushant for a final word is on what India's response would have been in case there was an escalation from Pakistan's side using ballistic missiles. Here's what Air Marshal Nagesh Kapoor says.
We would probably have gone for maybe some assets that could have caused some commercial disruption. Maybe power plants. Maybe.
Power plants and infrastructure things.
Maybe that would have been the next set of legitimate targets. Targets that were affecting their exact war fighting machinery. Might be. If we would have just continued on a little longer.
Sushant, this has been hinted at, but for the first time, out in public officially, bridges, power plants, infrastructure was basically what phase 3 would have been of India's response.
Yeah, I think it would have been something like more mixed kind of stuff, maybe a naval port or an airport, something like that. But remember one thing, Shiv, why this particular nugget of information becomes credible is go back to what the Prime Minister said.
Yeah.
I think it's the Prime Minister or the External Affairs Minister who said that when J.D. Vance had called up the Prime Minister had told him very clearly that if the Pakistanis were going to up the ante, India would not back down and India would go up the escalation ladder. So we were very clear what we are going to do. And the escalation dominance was being controlled by India. And clearly this particular nugget which the Air Marshal has given on your podcast, more or less confirmed. Now, what the targets would have been, I'm sure the Air Force and the armed forces have a list of targets prepped and ready. But just a word on that previous thing, about the Air Marshal saying that he lied to his chief. It's not really about lying. I think it tells you what leadership is all about.
Yeah, true.
Leadership of the Air Chief Marshal as well as the level of the, the commanders. He has full faith on his commanders that whatever they're going to do, he's not micromanaging them. A larger strategic direction has been given. He knows what is underway. He doesn't want to be micromanaging at every step and undermining the confidence of his own commanders. That is fabulous leadership, both at the level of the Air Marshal as well as the level of the Air Chief Marshal, and of course, the officers who carry out the mission. So I think that's yet an example of what leadership is all about. So all in all, brilliantly conducted operation and fabulously handled at the political level. The only one place where we screwed up big time was information warfare.
I agree with that, and that's the reason why it continues to be such a fascinating topic. And I hope more podcasts, more shows, more interviews, more documentaries will reveal even more layers of this. Air Marshal Kapoor, Sushant Sareen and John Spencer. Pleasure, gentlemen. Thank you very much for your time tonight here on India Matters. Thank you so much. Well, if you have been watching, thanks so much. Left, Right and Centre with Vishnu comes up next.
हिंदुस्तान मिले हिंदुस्तान से
देश का टायर JK टायर.
So many payment apps, but which one is safe?
Then switch to Bheem. It is completely safe and reliable, and you keep getting rewards as well. You can also get 20 rupees cashback on your first payment above 20 rupees. Use Bheem app to pay.
It's the Mahi way.
No matter what your day throws at you, stay in the spa state of mind with the Kohler Spa at home.
सबके हिस्से धूप का टुकड़ा हमसे खेलेगा देश का मुखड़ा.
रिन्यू बदल रहा है इंडिया की क्लीन एनर्जी की कहानी, और इसके साथ है सूरज, हवा और पानी. रिन्यू क्लीन एनर्जी हमसे है.
थोड़े में ज्यादा स्वाद, यही तो है इसकी खास बात.
वाओ मामा, क्या स्वाद है.
अरे मेरे राजा,
जानते हैं मैं एलीट मैट्रिमोनी क्यों रेकमेंड करता हूं? 17 years of experience, largest database of elite profiles, और 100% confidentiality. Elite Matrimony, India's most successful matchmaking service for the elite.
मीठा या नमकीन, चाहे जैसे खाओ, 100% सूजी से बनी आर प्योर वर्मिसेली, स्वादिष्ट, सेहतमंद, हर रोज.
ऑक्टोरोमा मैनुअल वाइंडिंग, 4 लोगों के पास है.
कुछ इससे भी अनोखा.
कमला पसंद, सिर्फ एक अनोखा स्वाद. कमला पसंद पान मसाला.
I'm in Ahmedabad's gift city today. This is Prime Minister Narendra Modi's dream of building an international financial center. Now I think we're reaching a point where the international financial operators are the ones chasing Gift City.
Began, there were just about 100 registrations. Today, it's close to 1,250.
Always be that tension between your aspiration for Gift City and the reality of Gujarat being a dry state.
Within the regulatory framework, everything what would be available outside the state is available.
I've been seeing that Edelweiss has been doing a lot of work in and around the Gift City.
I think it's like making an investment in the MF business of 20 years ago.
Okay.
And hopefully 20 years later, we can say Gift is what mutual fund is today.
How has customer adoption been and how are these products which you are operating out of Gift faring versus what you do outside?
We want this to be a destination for NRIs coming into India via multi-manager. We are also enabling something else, Indians investing abroad.
New rules of engagement. Ambitions crossing borders. Voices refusing to wait their turn. India is chasing gears. Faster.
I'm in Ahmedabad's Gift City today. This is Prime Minister Narendra Modi's dream of building an international financial center. Now I think we're reaching a point where the international financial operators are the ones chasing Gift City.
Began, there were just about 100 registrations. Today, it's close to 1,250.
Always be that tension between your aspiration for Gift City and the reality of Gujarat being a dry state.
Within the regulatory framework, everything what would be available outside the state is available.
I've been seeing that Edelweiss has been doing a lot of work in and around the Gift City.
I think it's like making an investment in the MF business of 20 years ago.
Okay.
And hopefully 20 years later, we can say Gift is what mutual fund is today.
How has customer adoption been and how are these products which you are operating out of Gift faring versus what you do outside?
We want this to be a destination for NRIs coming into India via multi-manager. We are also enabling something else, Indians investing abroad.
No matter what your day throws at you, stay in the spa state of mind with the coolest spa at home.
सबके हिस्से धूप का टुकड़ा हमसे खेल गया देश का मुखड़ा।
रिन्यू बदल रहा है इंडिया की क्लीन एनर्जी की कहानी और इसके साथ हैं सूरज, हवा और पानी। रिन्यू क्लीन एनर्जी हमसे है।
थोड़े में ज्यादा स्वाद यही तो है इसकी खास बात।
वाओ मामा, क्या स्वाद है?
अरे मेरे राजा, सबका राजा और मसाला।
जानते हैं मैं एलीट मैट्रिमोनी क्यों रिकमेंड करता हूं? 17 years of experience, largest database of elite profiles, और 100% confidentiality. Elite Matrimony, India's most successful matchmaking service for the elite.
I'm in Ahmedabad's Gift City today. From the lens of the regulator, how close do you think you are at this moment to achieving the dream of being Singapore, Hong Kong, New York, or London when it comes to being an international center of finance?
What are global investors looking at? Policy stability, there's legal certainty, and there's also a tax certainty. In the last 5 years, the government of India has pretty much put in place all these things. Our regulations are now benchmarked to the best in the world.
Let's take the passporting of KYC, Know Your Customer norms. Even that doesn't seem to be as easy as a lot of international bankers expect.
We are also doing a pilot for unassisted Aadhaar face authentication for NRIs.
You've seen this model operate internationally. How far has India been able to evolve with Gift City till this moment in time?
Started as a place for corporates, now wealth managers, individuals, private banking, a lot is happening.
Which are the instruments that you think that have now come up around Gift City in a way that people really need to know it, and if they don't, they're missing out?
Let's say you're going to travel. Why do you want to pay a markup on your money you spend out? Right? You should be able to spend directly from your bank account, and the bank account should be ideally able to recognize the currency.
चलिए हमारे तो कुलचे आ गए, आप और मैं तो ये खा लेंगे, but all these international fancy pant HSBC type bankers, I doubt they'll be okay with these kulchas.
I agree with you that social infra बनते बनेगा. Speed काफी है बनने में. पहले तो ये कुलचे भी नहीं थे, अभी कुलचे तो बढ़िया आ गए हैं.
A world of questions. Ideas that challenge the ordinary. Conversations that connect countries and cultures. Where different worlds find common ground. NDTV World brings Nepal's ideas to the world. NDTV Anviksha, Ideas Across Borders. The Nepal Dialogue. 27th August, Kathmandu, Nepal. The front lines of Kargil. The fury of Operation Sindoor.
So many attacks.
The chaos and cries of disaster zones. To fighter jet cockpits. And the world's most defining interviews.
It's incredible.
He has seen history break. Live, unfiltered. 20,000 hours of live broadcasting.
Welcome to Left, Right and Centre.
Hard facts.
War-struck country.
Hard questions.
In the Ukraine.
30 years of trust.
In the Kargil area. North Ukraine. In France. In Italy. At Srinagar. Vishnu Shom for NDTV. Good evening, welcome to Left, Right and Centre. I'm Vishnu Shom. We have a very special show this evening. In the skies over terror's heartland, history was rewritten by women in uniform. During Operation Sindoor, Indian women fighter pilots were involved in critical missions. Details first broken on NDTV in our podcast Control All Defence. We'll play out key bits of an interview with Air Marshal Nagesh Kapoor, who's just retired as Vice Chief. He was the Air Officer Commanding-in-Chief of the Southwestern Air Command when Sindoor happened last year and India struck Pakistan. The fact is this: once pilots enter the fighter stream, gender vanishes. They're simply warriors. This is the ultimate proof. The glass ceiling in the Indian Armed Forces is not cracked, it's shattered. Women no longer support from the sidelines. They fly into combat, deliver precision strikes deep inside enemy territory, and stand equal in every operational role, certainly in the Air Force. From permanent commissions to the cockpit of India's frontline jets, our daughters have claimed every height. Courage has no gender. Excellence has no barrier. On this show, in addition to what the Air Marshal said, and we'll play out that interview, we also play out interviews with an Indian Air Force officer who was a key fighter controller, controlling strike and air defense missions during Sindoor. She was right in the thick of it. And also a young Indian Army doctor, integrated with armored formations. If our tanks went in, so would she, with her medical kit and also her gun. There were women pilots also who were involved, right, in an operational role. Fighter pilots I'm talking about.
Yes, they would have been, yes.
And so this was the first time that women fighter pilots in the Indian Air Force were involved in the first time in a war and therefore combat operations. It just shows how brilliantly, this has moved forward. I think it was 2016 that we had the first batch of 3 pilots, join and enter the combat, the fighter squadrons, right? Avni, Mohana, and the third one, I forget. Bhavna. Who's now fighter combat leader. Yeah, who's just been TAG declared.
Was it 2016 is what I'm thinking? Yeah. Was it?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
2015,
you must be right.
16.
Yeah.
And they are now a part of this, and they flew, ops during Sindoor as well, right? In fighter pilots, as fighter pilots. Could you tell us about that?
I mean, there's not much to say of that. I mean, we never discriminated between the fact that they were girl pilots or boy pilots. They went through the same bit of training that everyone goes through. Once they were commissioned, thereafter they went through the same grind in the squadrons that anyone would go through without any bias towards there being women or nothing of the kind. In case the corrective actions were to be taken, then they must have been taken when the CEOs and the flight commanders would pull them up by the ears to make sure that they fell in line. And so they were just another fighter air crew as far as we were concerned. So there were no planning considerations above and over what would have been for a normal male fighter air crew.
Yeah.
So there were no planning considerations as far as they were supposed to do a job.
But I think it is on record an important development for us and our Indian Air Force that we've got women combat aviators who partaken in a war.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's just absolutely incredible. Shiv?
Yes, there is a glass ceiling that probably was broken.
That's been shattered and how? All right, the Air Marshal over there who's just recently retired as the Vice Chief of the IAF, he was commanding the Southwest Air Command and actually saw these missions going in. But there were so many women who participated in Op Sindoor. The young officer I interviewed, and we can't name her, I interviewed her in one of the Indian Air Force's frontline bases recently, was a fighter controller. She actually directed fighter formations that struck Pakistan targets and commanded our Air Force fighters in air defense missions as well. This is what she told me a few months back.
We were very proud of the fact that we were there and we could be a part of whatever is about to happen. It was of course there was a lot of questions in mind, what will happen, how will it happen? But I think the one feeling that I remember most about that time was pride.
Was pride, yeah?
Yes.
And tell us about your role during Op Sindoor. What do air traffic controllers do and what did you do?
As air traffic controllers, our role from day to day and in that operation was more or less the same, as in we man the skies, we look out for other aircraft, we look out for our own aircraft, we ensure that in case of any emergency, we are there to assist them, we ensure that they are well separated from each other, they are safe. So that is our main role. So there was no difference in our role as such. It's just that, yes, we were a little, we were more careful. There were no civil aircraft, so we knew that we have to be very careful that all the guys which are up in the air are ours.
Yeah.
And there is no one who's crossing over from the other side towards our side.
Yeah.
So that was our main aim, and we were on a sharp lookout for that. And that was our role. I also remember of that night, we were waiting for our aircraft to inform us that yes, they've completed the mission successfully. So once that news was received, we were very happy, and of course, we were.
Could you tell us a little bit more about that moment, because safety is inbuilt into the Air Force. So when these pilots return from missions, as an air traffic controller who'd guided the mission itself, how did it feel?
It feels great. Whenever you work towards something and then it comes to successful fruition, it is always a great feeling. And it was the same feeling that day. But that notwithstanding, our role is to be very calm and composed at all times, even in times of emergency. So no matter how ecstatic or how happy or how proud we are, we cannot sound like that. So we sound the same.
Yeah.
We sound exactly how I'm talking to you. There is no change in modulation or speech.
Could you tell us about one inspiring story during those 88 hours plus?
I think the one thing that inspired me the most, which I talk about often, is how everyone came together. There was no complaints of lack of sleep, no complaints of lack of food. Everyone was together. It was one combined mission.
All right, well, for the first time on this channel, we've been able to bring you the real stories of women fighter pilots. She wasn't a woman fighter pilot, she was a fighter controller. But during Op Sindoor, she was guiding Indian fighter formations and other formations in the air for offensive and defensive missions. But this wasn't just about the Indian Air Force. The Indian Navy and the Indian Army certainly played a very important role. Just after Op Sindoor, I traveled to the Akhnur sector. In fact, to areas where India had tanks deployed during Op Sindoor. Yes, tanks did fire during Op Sindoor across the international border. They didn't really go across. They would have if they needed to. Women doctors, a young captain who you'll just see, were part of these armored formations. They would go in if they were called to with their medical kit in one hand and an AK-47 on the other.
Depending upon the operational tasks, we are always ready to move to save every life of the soldier and not leave any man behind.
Captain, could you tell us about your training when it comes to scenarios like this, where you'd be dealing with shrapnel injuries, bullet wounds, mine injuries, etc. This needs, instant assistance, and that golden hour, they say, is critical. What is the golden hour in layman's terms?
So that is what actually makes us different from the normal civil doctors. We are basically trained in the tactical combat casualty care, which includes handling casualties, which is not like the regular casualties in the civil area. So as you rightly mentioned about the various kinds of injuries, we are basically taught to manage these injuries and about hemorrhage control, and also how to evacuate the patients to higher centers, timely evacuation, and thereon.
But doctor, I must ask you one question. In as much as your job is to save lives and to protect our soldiers, you operate a gun if it's necessary, right? You carry one with you at all stages as you go in with these formations, right?
Yes, again, that is one more difference which makes us stand apart from the civil doctors, is that if need be, we'd be ready to fire.
Yeah. And Captain, one final question. Why did you want to be a doctor in the armed forces as opposed to, let's say, being a civilian doctor? Did you always want to be in uniform?
Yeah, uniform is one of the major factors, and apart from that, army and armed forces just gives you a hell lot of experiences, and it teaches you a lot in your life, and that's why I'm over here.
Was it tense, stressful over the last few? Did you catch any sleep?
Yeah, it was difficult, but then I was ready for this and I signed up for this, so I had to be there.
Well, several years ago, when I started journalism, there was always talk about how women needed to be integrated into the armed forces in a much bigger way. It's not always easy. It's gone to the Supreme Court of the country, and there have been very clear guidelines which have stated that women must now be allowed in command roles. They must be allowed to rise right up to the top. But perhaps more than any other force, it was the Indian Air Force which really went about inducting women in critical roles from the very onset. Air Chief Marshal Raha was the Air Chief when it all started out, and he really pushed for this. And today, it's resulted in Indian fighter pilots being involved in some of the missions during Op Sindoor. Joining us for his views, and he's seen the integration of women into India's combat arms, the fighter fleets, and so many other parts of the Indian Air Force, which is a huge organization over the years. Air Marshal Sujit Dharkar, the former Vice Chief of Air Staff. I'm also joined by Captain Yashika Tyagi. She's a former Army officer and a Kargil war veteran. Thanks very much, ma'am, for being with us. But Air Marshal, you must be so proud. I mean, we're all proud, so it's a bit of a silly question, but you must be particularly proud that women fighter pilots, right, went into combat during Sindoor. And this, I call it bogus talk about should women be allowed in combat, what happens if they are shot down, are we ready for this? I mean, that thinking has disappeared, right, in the Indian Air Force.
That cycle went off a long time ago. In fact, we inducted women pilots in the early 90s, and then it was only a matter of time before they started coming into combat aircraft, into fighter planes. And once they got into the fighter stream, after that it was simply a matter of time. Once they qualified and they finished their basic and relevant training, it was only time that they would involve or get involved in combat should the need arise, and that is exactly how it happened. And once they train, we make no segregation.
No, and that sir, is my point. That, when you are trained to fight, when crores are spent on you, when the standards are the same, you can't be an inferior fighter pilot or any pilot just because you're a woman. The standards are the same. The expectations are very high. Therefore, gender plays no role in this.
The squadrons and their comrades make no differentiation between men and women, I guess, and they fit in just as well as everybody else. They do just as good as everybody else. In fact, your audience would have heard many of them have really reached significant heights recently. You heard of a SCON leader in the helicopter stream become become a Cat A QFI. You heard of a fighter pilot becoming a fighter combat leader. So
you're a fighter combat leader from Cat D as well, aren't you, sir?
I am. I'm a fighter strike leader. It's equivalent for the.
No, so just in simple terms, explain to our audience what becoming a TAG D qualified, fighter pilot is.
Actually, without putting it into too much hype, Tag D is the Indian and maybe even slightly better version of Top Gun. So if you were to look at it in that manner, and why I say better is because while Top Gun has been much in the news for various reasons, the movie included, Tag D has a quiet role behind every tactics and every development that occurs in the fighter stream and otherwise now in the Indian Air Force. And in that regard, it is not restricted to the fighter stream alone anymore for about at least more than a decade and a half, which is why I say it's probably an expanded role, more than what you probably saw in Top Gun. But graduates from Tag D come across all streams of the Air Force, including air defense. I'm talking about air defense as relates to ground air defense, and including radar controllers, weapons specialists, fighter pilots, transport pilots, helicopter pilots, and the full Monty. So in that manner, Tag D plays a much more expanded role than one would if I were to only try and equate it to Top Gun. But importantly, graduates of Tag D do end up being stellar in whatever stream they join in terms of being at Tag D. And here we're talking about the fighter combat leader stream in this particular part. It's the epitome of fighter pilot training.
Yeah, absolutely. Captain Tyagi, you served in the Kargil War. So much has changed since then. You know, I mean, it was almost as if you saw a woman officer, it was a novelty. It's like, oh, you know, look. But now people don't think twice. People don't look twice. It's just normalized. And I think it's that change in mindsets, right, within the forces, which is as important as the greater number of induction of women in the armed forces. It's that mindset change which is so important.
Yeah, you're very right, Vishnu. First of all, today my heart is just bursting out of pride to see how this generation has taken the whole cadre to next level. Yes. And you're very right in saying that when women officers were inducted, 99 was the first action, and there were women Air Force officers, women Army officers in the sector, and everybody performed not as women officers, but as officers, as soldiers of Bharat Mata. And that sense today, decades have passed when people have been asking questions, society is asking questions. Can men accept women commanders? Will women be able to survive the hardships? And today is the day that I actually feel that Operation Sindoor has changed the paradigm. And Operation Sindoor has showed that the question no longer exists, whether women can perform in Indian military battle space or not. I think the only question today is that whether Bharat is using the full potential of women lady officers in all streams. And why I keep saying women again and again, because till date we are speaking. Today this program is also conducted to highlight that factor. So it is very important to speak more and more. And I feel that this should also be part of curriculum. When we talk of Operation Sindoor in our curriculum, we should speak about contribution of women so that the girls in our schools grow up with that thought that yours is the sky and yours is the glory.
You know, Air Marshal, we were talking about fighter pilots, but I don't know if you saw that little clip I played out with a captain of the Indian Army, and she's a doctor. And I interviewed her in the, I can't say where exactly, but I'd say the broader Akhnoor area. This was just after Op Sindoor. And, she was with tank formations. And what struck me is when she answered my question, and, she's wearing a battle fatigue. She's standing behind a BMP, an ambulance BMP, saying that, no, I'll carry my medical kit, I'll fix up injuries, but I'm carrying my AK-47 with me. And so I'll fight if I need to. And if that is not being integrated into a combat role, I don't know what is. Again, your thoughts on this. And we need to talk about doctors. Women doctors go right into combat wherever they are. Air Marshal?
Yes, they do. I mean, and I'm certain they do a stellar role in whatever location they serve in. And importantly, there is no segregation, like I said. They do just as well. In times, I would believe, at least from the doctor's side, they probably do a little better than their male counterparts at those locations because they carry with them that little additional empathy, if I may say that. And that does make a better connect with whomever they are treating at that time. Not that our male doctors do poorly, but here I think they manage a slightly more personal connect with their patients, and that probably helps in that kind of a zone.
And Air Marshal,
like you said.
Yep, Air Marshal,
no, go ahead, please.
We spoke about doctors, and we can keep talking about. I love to talk about doctors in the armed force because I believe people just don't talk enough about them. I mean, that golden hour in saving lives against terrorism in Kashmir. I've spent so many years covering that. Man, doctors play an incredible role. But Air Marshal, women are now integrated into the Air Force as engineers. This is as important as any fighter pilot. They're fighter controllers, they're met experts, they're pilots, helicopters, transports, everything. And that's the key point, that when they form a significant part of every aspect of the Indian Air Force in the skies and on the ground, right?
Absolutely. They're in every stream that we have.
And sir, do you believe that over the last few years you've seen a greater interest among young women to try and join the armed forces? Has that gone up because of new opportunities? Has that stagnated? Is there less interest?
No, I would believe that interest continues. And in fact, now that we have women being inducted into the NDA as well, I guess we're only going to see more and more women get inducted into the armed forces. And I'm certain that in due course of time, very soon, you would find them in every service, every arm, and they would probably do just as well. So finally, it's about their training and what they end up with. You could put them all through the